Hey, we're live. There it is. Can you take me higher? I'm back at it. BCX, the channel, the person, the experience. Hey, we're live, direct, local, late breaking, and in your absolute face hole on this January 8th, this Wednesday. You know what we do here every week, 4 p.m. Eastern time in my basement, right? It's your local pub virtually. Hi, I'm your bartender, Brian Campbell. Thank you so much for patronizing me on this here occasional Patreon. We're not the only pipes up yet, okay? But you can super chat your boy with Patreon, but forget about that. This is about you and me. This is about pressing pause on the life. This is about having some fun and talking generally in long rambling circles, right? Because that is what happens here. So hey, no Mikey today. He's on the road working. Shout out to the man. I'll be handling this myself. Bear with me here on my Hasselhoffian technical applications of this. But you know what we do here. I hit you with a few topics of what's been going on in combat sports in my life, whatever, right? And then we open up the floodgates and the people get to talk. No mystery guests, no special guests today, outside potentially of Reginald Jackson Campbell, who really comes and goes as he pleases. A lot of Zoe the cat time in the basement office lately, so this could be a late breaking development. She's a fantastic cat, the OG of the household at age 8, but she'll bite you on air and draw blood out of love. She's a big Basic Instinct fan from back in the day. But hope you guys are all doing well. I'm inside of my house, Jake the Snake. Yes, apparently I'm in yours right now. Okay, people are already jumping in. Sean Nichols started listening to Creed as a joke and haven't stopped. You can blame me. Okay, it's become a nostalgic lifestyle for me, just the same. But I hope you guys are doing well. Okay, it's the new year, which of course we already know means no limits. So let's think big. Um, the winters. I mean, I don't know. If I feel like if I'm speaking to people in warm weather places, they're like, winter seasonal depression. What are you talking about? But it's a thing. It happens. It's cold as balls outside in Connecticut. So I hope everybody out there is staying warm, keeping it together. Hey, up your meds if you have to. All right. All right. I'm not a licensed doctor. I'm just somebody who's trying to prioritize mental health for myself and my family and all of you out there. Although unhinged BC, probably better for ratings. I don't know. You can debate that. What do we got going on today? We got life. We're doing well here. Thank you for keeping this channel afloat. You can do that, of course, by liking, by subscribing to the channel, by commenting, by telling me what you like, what you don't like, all that good stuff. The channel's, of course, been on what do you call that, cruise control lately. I mean, I got big plans. They're coming slowly. All right, we're working there. But tomorrow, Thursday, January 9th, live at 11 a.m. Eastern on the BCX, Inside the Box is back. Okay, we're gonna get Rafe Bugs out of hibernation. We got to hear what he thought on Usyk Fury 2. He's got hot takes. We're gonna look ahead at 2025 together. We're gonna talk about Jai Opetaia, which I'm about to talk about in a second. I don't know if you guys woke up early to see that this morning from down there, down under at Broad Beach, Australia. I don't know if that's where from Long Island Luke's dad is from, but whatever. All right. I barely know what I'm doing here. So if something happens and we disconnect, just blame Luke Thomas's career. All right. Yes, here we go right there. What else we got going on here? Of course, Morning Combat live and direct this Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern on the Morning Combat YouTube channel. We'll be looking ahead, of course, to the weekend that's coming with real fights live in your Apex. It's back, baby. Yeah, we're talking about Dern Hebos 2. Two chicks at one time. It's going to be great. We're going to see live MMA again. So get ready for that. We'll preview that, look at the latest news and all that. And yeah, Jai Opetaia did some dark things today. Sending that man to hell, Luke. Yeah, indeed. All right, we are live. You know it. You know it. I know it. There we go. All right, let me figure out how to do this thing. Anybody else feeling 2 Chainz just getting over his Rose Bowl depression? Yeah, I mean, if you're a college football guy, if you're a South Oregon bird, I mean, I don't even know who's playing these days, all right? I don't really know. I'm not really into that side of it these days. It's that ESPN burnout. You work 12 years at that place. You run the front page. You're watching every sport all night long. I mean, it was great, and in the beginning, then kind of wears you out and burns you out. But you know what I'm about. Combat sports. 90s NBA, 70s final. I mean, it's a very small, obscure niche window there, but so I hope you guys are, I mean, smoke them if you got them, lazy bed. All right, rah rah, indeed. There you go. And we're gonna have fun today. All right, I promise you. Or if not, just Turn off your station. Okay. Okay. You know where I'm going with that? All right. But yeah, the BCX channel's flowing. I hope you check out my Richardson Hitchens interview with the new 140-pound champion in boxing who wants all comers in that division. And also, spoiler alert, get ready. I got an Usman Nurmagomedov interview coming, I think, later today to the BCX. You're going to really enjoy it. That guy came in slanging hog verbally, if you know what I'm talking about. All right. I mean, do you? You might want to look in the mirror if you do, but there you go. There you go. Hold on to your heads, hold on to your rears, whatever you got to do there, Dave. So we appreciate you being here just the same. I mean, where's our boys, right? Where's Alan Dubb? All right. Where's our people? Where's our peephole? Well, not in the women's restroom. There you go. All right. A cup of coffee to the working man. Let's stay positive. Let's stay happy. I mean, look, I'm the Project Zab, right? Is he gonna I hope he's not going to. Sorry, wrong one. Jake the Snake, you love the positive. Yeah, well, my editorial husband, Luke Thomas, is the yin to my yang. Yin to my yang. I don't know. You know my history with Japan. I mean, I was supposed to be in Japan for Ryan Garcia last week, right? That would have been something. Is that fight even gonna happen now? I don't know. Whatever. It's not your worries, just mine. So yeah, that's what's going on in the BCX. We'll be back with MK on Friday. And we're just trying to stay optimistic, stay passionate, stay aggressively ambitious, and most importantly, keep your head. All right. Hard work good. How does that line go? Hard work good and hard work bad. But first take care of Ed. All right. I think Sublime taught me that among many other things. Whew. All right. We ramble first, Lazy Bed. Thank you. We ramble first. Questions later. And there we go. All right. You know what I mean? Joe Rogan show by afternoon, BCX by night. Thank you very much. All day long. I mean, Banana Clipper, they're kind of all the same right there. You live with Louis Dog or Reggie Jackson. The only way to stay sane. Let's kick it off with my first topic right here. Did you see cruiserweight IBF champion Jai Opetaia early this morning, East Coast time, Broad Beach, Australia? See, I got to say this, being a U.S. boxing fan, even being an elite world-renowned journalist such as myself, right? That's a stretch. Jai Opetaia has certainly been on my radar. He's been rising. He's been getting the Turkey Al-Sheikh support behind him, the bandwagon going. But once you get on board with him, once you start watching the fights live, once you start getting in there, you realize, yes, this was ultimately one-sided, even though it was exciting for the 4 rounds it lasted. But Opetaia is starting to really show me that he is that dude. I mean, the 2 title wins over Myris Brightus certainly is the feather in the cap critically in terms of, can this guy swim at this level? Even though he has 1 of 4 cruiserweight titles, could we start talking about him as the best cruiserweight in the world? Could we start talking about some of the future matchups we could make? That's certainly what I want to talk about. So he goes in there against a guy that I really didn't think much of. I didn't know much about, David Nika. They called him, the ring announcer called him Nika. These announcers were bumbling, calling him Naika all the way. I mean, it turned out that way. It turned out a little bit of a horrible mismatch. But Nika, turns out, was 10-0 coming in, had the name down under as a Australian Olympian, was a part of that. Didn't recognize his name, but then when I read up, he's the guy that almost got his ear bitten off, excuse me, Tyson Holyfield style during the Olympics. I certainly remembered that guy. Here's what I'll say about Nika. Use that amateur success, the 10-0 record. He's got a good look to get into a fight. He wasn't on this level, but to his credit, he came out slugging. He came out. I mean, if I said that Usman Nurmagomedov was slinging that D verbally, right, at anyone I threw in front of him, this guy, Nika, brought the fight, for better or worse, ill-advised or not, directly to Opetaia. So we got 4 rounds of fury in this, really a round and a half. I really think that once Opetaia hurt Nika late in round 2, it was a slow scale going downhill for him that ended really as brutally as possible in round 4, when Opetaia gets a knockdown. Naika gets to his feet, and then he sort of gets pinned against the ropes. I think he got his arm kind of halfway caught on the ropes at the wrong angle, and that That left hook just turned the lights out, knocked him out cold. It was brutal. And it shows you what this 29-year-old southpaw, the unbeaten Opetaia, can bring to the table. And that's big power shots. Yes, he can box, but this fight was not about boxing. Opetaia now 27-0 with 21 KOs. And again, I want to reiterate, it's not this performance or this opponent that he beat that is, going to make me go, man, dude, we got to get on this train. But we got to get on this train. I mean, this was an exciting example of what he can do because Nika brought out the brawling early, got right up in his face with a high guard, trying to go to the body. And I really like the way that Opetaia fielded that aggressive challenge. He didn't lose necessarily his form. He's hung in there, really started to battle back with heavy hooks early to basically say, Nika, are you down with this lifestyle? Can you hang in this kitchen? And then when he started going to the body, meaning Opetaia, he really started to break down and take the fight away from his opponent. But to see him finish it as brutal as that, and to see the fights that we are now talking about, and then of course you have to mention, if you're one of Turkey's favorite boys right now, you're going to get monster push. You're going to get monster placement. So let's hit it. Let's talk about what could be in the future for him after this performance. A lot of people wanting right away, let's get the belts at cruiserweight. Where are we at cruiserweight? I had to actually look it up in terms of trying to figure out who has all the belts and exactly where we're at. We know the IBF title is Opetaia. What I didn't even know, even me, superstar boxing guy BC, was that your WBC champion is currently Norer Mikolan, if I butchered that enough. But it's Zurdo, El Zurdo, Gilberto Ramirez, who has the WBO and WBA title, fighting for Golden Boy Promotions. Maybe a little bit on a kind of like a renaissance run or a recuperative run. Not that Zurdo really went anywhere, but he did bring that really big, padded, unbeaten 44-0 record into that title fight against Dimitri Bivol a couple years back. In that year that Bivol beat Canelo, was the fighter of the year. And look, that was a one-sided loss. Bivol absolutely brought it to him. But credit to what Zurdo has done reinventing himself, now at cruiserweight, a unified champion, and himself looking to eventually go up to heavyweight and try to become a Mexican-born heavyweight champion. That's a no-brainer fight for Opetaia. It would give him, if he won it, 3 of the 4 titles at cruiserweight. He's already sort of the uncrowned, not undisputed or lineal champion, but the guy people are looking at as the guy in that division. So if that's the way they go to finish matters at cruiserweight right now, I'm all for it. But you got to look ahead at what could really be coming our way. Not just should Beterbiev, win or lose against Bivol. At some point, Beterbiev has talked about moving up to cruiserweight. Could you imagine him moving up to cruiserweight and taking on the reigning king Opetaia, especially if he's got 3 of the 4 belts if he fights Zurdo? That's one big option. Another big option is obviously Alexander Usyk. Whether Usyk would want to come back down to cruiser, which he has talked about. He makes heavyweight obviously very easily, and you can see what he does as a somewhat undersized heavyweight in the super heavyweight era. Opetaia is kind of like that, right? At 6'2", where look, if he does move up to heavyweight, and if he did arrive into a heavyweight title fight right away, if he timed it perfectly, I wouldn't hate that. But imagine him and Usyk, and imagine him and Usyk potentially at cruiserweight. I got one of those emails with some early offshore odds right here. Shout out to Jeff Bet, whatever that is. But this email is saying that there's a 44% chance Usyk could be beaten here by Opetaia at cruiserweight. I don't know how they calculated that. It sounds like the Willy Wonka computer where they try to find the extra golden ticket. Either way, the business is there. Opetaia is showing you he's got the attitude. He's got the look. He's got the demeanor. He's got the power in both hands. He's a good enough boxer. He's a good athlete too. This guy's going to cause a lot of problems and be in some big fights. And when you're with Turkey and we're trying to figure out the end game of this heavyweight division, meaning we got Usyk twice going through Joshua and Fury. We still need to have Fury versus Joshua, and probably the winner of that's still going to get another chance at either Usyk or if Usyk rematches Dubois. But what if Usyk rematches Dubois, wins, and then goes down to cruiser? There's a lot of ways this could work out. But either way, American boxing fan BC is fully awoke to what Jai Opetaia is bringing to the table and very excited to add him to the mix, because we can talk a lot, rightfully, that the heavyweight division, which since 2015, when Fury upset Klitschko, has this incredible era of big fights and big personalities. And the fear is that even though heavyweights age later, they're kind of all aging out at the same time. Even though Deontay Wilder apparently is making a comeback, on BLK Prime pay-per-view against Stephen Shaw. Is that the rumor? That's a very interesting fight. I don't know about that. But you got Moses Atama, who's basically everyone's prospect of the year. They're the unbeaten heavyweight who's trying to become champion at age 20. Could you have Opetaia join in that mix? Will Big Baby Anderson rebound? Is Richie Torres going to end up being a thing for Top Rank? Torres Jr. with the amateur background. I like to see, you know, Bacoli's still there. I like to see that we're slowly reloading and we're bringing new names to the table. It's going to be fun. It's going to be big business there. Shout out to Opetaia giving us a little Wednesday morning breakfast at Wimbledon style here on the East Coast. I enjoy it. You got to start watching this guy. He is absolutely for real. And shout out to the balls on Nika to bring that to the table. And I mean, it was almost Derek Brunson against Robert Whitaker UFC strategy where it's like, yeah, screw the game plan. I'm just going to brawl with you off the start. Let's see who has the bigger, the bigger bolas. Turns out it was that guy. It was Opetaia. All right. Yeah, I mean, whatever's left of Deontay Wilder. I think a lot of people keep getting fooled by this fake Michael Benson account, which is kind of becoming hilarious, including Stephen A. Smith. But I'm hoping for Wilder's sake that he could come back, get a win, sort of exit the end of his career on his terms. Maybe that means getting into an Ngannou fight for big money. Maybe that means finally fighting Joshua, right? I mean, it's just hard to imagine, obviously, the last two times we saw Wilder, how skinny his legs were, how much he just didn't have it. Did he rush back too quick because the turkey money was so large? There's a lot of things you have to ask yourself here. I think the window is going to be very, very small for Wilder to be highly productive or be, you know, a threat still at this point. I mean, he's physically past it. But when he can bring the boom like that, like his career historically, and I'm not necessarily trying to set you up for a Costco 5 booms here. This man can still find a way to win these fights and find a way to get it done. All right, that's topic number 1. Let me hit it the next one. I'm really fired up. Yeah, because I talked to Usman Nurmagomedov this morning, but I'm really fired up for what this fight is. January 25th. It goes against the grain of all the things I don't like about PFL right now, meaning that we're still so splintered, that we've got this Road to Dubai series renamed from the Bellator Championship Series, which never made sense to begin with. You hear us talk about this on MK all the time. But if we're going to do the exercise we briefly did the other day on Monday's Morning Combat Show, looking ahead for the fights we want to make in 25, it's like, what are the best fights not in the UFC that we could see? I mean, what had been sort of my working fight on that list had been the idea of AJ McKee and Usman Nurmagomedov finally facing off. I thought it was going to happen in the finals of that Bellator tournament that never really played itself out during that transition from Bellator to PFL. And of course, it didn't help that Usman beat Brent Primus, but then it was a no contest. He got popped for the illegal prescription drug and, you know, called a cheater for a bit, was sort of cleared from that. It was unintentional, but that thing didn't play out the way we thought. And then to top it off, make matters worse, McKee ends up never really capitalizing on that breakthrough submission win he had over Pitbull in their first fight, losing the rematch by close decision, and recently going in there in a very creative fight against Paul Hughes and losing. So in a way, you kind of just sub out McKee and put Paul Hughes in there, who's 13-1, was certainly largely unproven on this level until he went in there and did what he did to McKee. Now we've got a very intriguing fight headlining a card that normally we wouldn't care about. And you can argue with yourself whether you actually do care about it outside of the main event. It's got a new co-main event, which is Vadim Nemkov not fighting Corey Anderson or his original opponent, Denis Goltsov at heavyweight. It's going to be Timothy Johnson. Reportedly, or at least if you follow Corey Anderson enough on social, it's because Nemkov was like, nah, I don't want that hard of a fight. Give me old Tim Johnson, who played a perfect role in getting knocked out by Fedor in that Moscow homecoming. But this main event is badass, and I'm really into it. I mean, if you could imagine the run that Hughes, if he really is of this ilk, if he really is this good, could you imagine how quickly he could turn his fortunes packaging a win over McKee with someone like Usman Nurmagomedov? Holy crap, right? On the flip side, I don't want to say I'm finally seeing, but I'm certainly seeing here Usman Nurmagomedov, a guy who I think is going to be great in a fight where I'm not sure exactly how great he's going to look. He's coming off a fight that turned out to be way tougher against Alexander Chablis in the title defense he had in making his debut in PFL Tour. And I asked Usman about it. You know, it's funny. I said, look, do you expect, given what we don't know about Hughes and given the upset there of AJ McKee, will this be the toughest fight of your career? And Usman, I mean, straight up, unequivocally was like, tough fight? He's like, brother, do you watch the MMA? Do you not know that this guy's not on my level at all? I'm like, dude, he beat AJ McKee. He goes, AJ McKee is a small, small man. I mean, this is Usman straight up in English, no translator. I appreciated it. But this is a real fight, and I'm excited about it. And it doesn't make any, it's like, why is this fight headlining basically a Bellator card on the other side of the world? Well, I guess because Dubai paid a lot of money. In reality, we should drop the regular season playoff format and make a fight like this a featured fight, have one title, but that's not the way they're going to do it. I did ask Usman, are you in the same boat as the other Bellator fighters? Are you angry like Pitbull and Patchy about your handling? And he was like, no, I'm doing fine. He had a lot of other interesting questions. He basically said, look, I got a lot of money. I'm already a millionaire. I don't need some Bellator tournament paycheck at the end of the day. I feel like this guy is waiting. He's waiting for his brother, Islam, more or less, to move up and out of that division at UFC. I think we got to figure out how many fights does Usman have left on his deal for sure with PFL. But that's all future stuff. The immediate future is January 25th in Dubai. And this is a very good fight. And I know that it's becoming easy to just sort of, because of this Khabib Abdulmanap coaching tree, this era, these guys are ridiculous. Islam Makhachev's the best fighter in the world. Khabib retired as the best fighter in the world and is now acting head coach along with Javier Mendez, future Hall of Famer coach. Umar is on the verge of fighting for the title, and people are already anointing him as the future pound for pound king. Usman looks to be of this ilk. And I get that you could say, well, yeah, who has he beaten? Even though he has beaten a decent amount of tests that were available to him. Maybe not the ones that are going to truly test him and push him to the absolute limit. But he went through Patricky Pitbull, Benson Henderson, Brent Primus, even with that no contest. But he says, look, no, Chablis was the hardest fight of my career, and look what I did. So I think certainly from a betting standpoint, from what we know about them, you're going to have to back Nurmagomedov in here. But I want to see if Hughes can continue to make things happen. I like the sort of ridiculous narrative of Irish MMA versus Dagestan MMA, even if Conor McGregor won't be in Hughes's corner and really probably shouldn't be. And it really would distract from this matchup and make it more about Khabib versus Conor all over again, even though that is tasty soap opera gas station storyline dishing going on. But sooner or later, we're going to find out what we really have in Usman. And he told me straight up, look, my goal is to be the best fighter of all time. And here's what's really interesting when you listen to the people close to him. I read a quote the other day from Javier Mendez, who said, of all the fighters I've coached, that obviously includes Khabib, Islam, Daniel Cormier, Luke Rockhold, countless world champions in elite fighters. He thinks Usman's the best talent he's ever coached. That says something. Obviously, Khabib's his cousin. He's going to say nice things, but Khabib's like, look, I think this guy is going to be one of the 5 best fighters of all time when it's all said and done. Really interesting stuff there. So we're going to see that fight. I'm looking forward to it. Check out my interview. This dude just doesn't give an F. And I loved it. I loved that confidence from him. All right, a couple more tidbits, and we're going to turn the floor over to you guys. Let's see what you have to say, what you want to hear about. What's going on with Teofimo Lopez? I don't know. So in the past 24 hours, it looks like he turned down an offer from Top Rank to headline a pay-per-view against former 140 champion and boogeyman Sabril Matias, who's coming off that loss to Liam Paro. And reportedly from Keith Idek of Uncrowned, the offer was larger than Teofimo's typical guarantee, but it wasn't enough for Teo. And what we're seeing over the past few days on Twitter, added to the consistent almost race baiting that he's been doing in the last couple months to African-American fighters, which, hasn't been cool, hasn't been awesome to see, literally using the N-word, using race to try to lure Terrence Crawford into a fight, throwing things at Boots, at anybody coming his way. At Haney recently, doing the whole light, you're not even dark-skinned bit, like, just get that crap out of here. But it's boxing. I mean, unfortunately, homophobia still reigns rampant in boxing. But he is aggressively trying to make headlines, and it's seemingly trying to wiggle out of his Top Rank deal if possible, constantly tweeting at the promotion like, hey, what's my buyout number? Let's talk. Posting memes of Todd DeBuff, Bob Arum's son-in-law. that no? Is that what we call him? What's that term? What's the term? What's the damn term I'm looking like? Stepson. There you go, stepson. Who's poised to take over the company. I'm sure Top Rank is used to this, as Teo has sort of had an on and off 4 or 5 years there of being, company man, score a big win in a big fight, and then completely aggressively push for things business wise to cause issues, forcing the purse bid, in the Cambosis fight, which took the control of that fight away from Top Rank and ESPN into the hands of Triller, and then eventually Eddie Hearn and his own. The whole bit heading into the Josh Taylor fight, which was an extended bit of, is this man too crazy to be fighting? I mean, I really do think, I'd have to ask Ryan Garcia about it one day, but I really think Ryan Garcia took the blueprint of what Teo did ahead of the Josh Taylor fight, which is try to convince us that he's as crazy as possible and not fit to fight, only to set up him to go in there and put forth another dominant elite breakthrough performance like the one he did to Taylor, like the one he did to Lomachenko. It's hard to tell right now if this is just Teo freestyling and being in the character and in the moment, and whether that's actually the best way to get the best out of him. It's like somebody in my DM, I'm in, maybe some of you are in that. I'm in a great DM group, right? The Candy Lickers over there on Twitter. And, somebody posts, shout out to the guys in the 80K, Galactic, all my boys in there, Rafe. And somebody's like, I'm not even sure right now, based on his behavior, if he's going to be, locked up in a straitjacket, or if he's heading toward another generational run. It's interesting to see. It's weird to see the whole way that he's pushing so hard business-wise. And now he's claiming he turned down the Matias fight because he's got a really big offer on the table for a really big breakthrough fight. We're going to have to wait and see. But I think at the end of the day, everything I always say about Teo is true. Any given night, he's either one of the best fighters in the world or completely average, and he can't figure it out why. Sometimes fueled by crazy stuff going on in his family, which seems to be ongoing, constant. And then other times, he's back to being the Teo that a lot of us fell in love with. I started interviewing him when he had, 8, 9 pro fights, and he sort of had this maturity and command that was not normal for that age. And it turned out some of that might be a front, or some of that might have been a coping mechanism to deal with the constant, like I said, drama around him. Don't forget that uneven performance against Nakatani. I always say it because it's true. On the way to the ring, he watched his family get in a fight with his then fiance, verbal and almost physical, and had to referee that on the way to the ring. But this guy just has an ability to take all that craziness and bring out the absolute best of himself. So I don't know where this is going to lead, but I'm watching. And what I always say is this: Teo's must-see TV. He's a reality show, full-time, 24/7. Every time you think you know the direction he's going, he changes the questions. Let's see, because there's a lot of big names that he's been linked to, or he's been talking trash to, or trying to get into fights to, from Crawford to Haney. How about Ryan Garcia, which I laid out on Monday on MK. What's our fights to watch in boxing this year? Number 2 for me is Teo versus Ryan Garcia, an absolute crazy shootout of ridiculousness. So we'll see where that goes. But I can't say I'm all into everything that he's been doing. Thank you, Andrew Nance. But I'm watching. And finally, I saw it real quick. I didn't get to watch the interview that BKFC, what are we calling him? Promoter, chairman, owner, David Feldman had on Ariel Helwani's show today. But we know big things are coming with BKFC. We've read about the investment money that continues to come in. Feldman's kind of teased this in advance a while back, that a big round of money that was going to come in and they were going to make big moves. We still don't know exactly what this thing he's teasing, this all-in $25 million tournament that's supposedly open to everybody and is going to change combat sports. It's a bold, cryptic sort of throw out there, but it's definitely got your attention. It's not nothing that they're going to Philadelphia for this Knucklemania fight with Eddie Alvarez and Jeremy Stevens, and a pretty good card for their purposes, and that they're basically selling 15,000 tickets. That's not nothing in 2025 in combat sports. But he revealed today that Mike Perry versus Robbie Lawler could be coming up soon. Could be what the doctor ordered. Could be exactly what we deserve in this slop lane. Are you kidding me, dude? Robbie Lawler versus Mike Perry in bare knuckle fighting. It reminds me of the time that people forget about this when McDonald's came out with the hot dog in 2003. I mean, they should forget about it. It was 2002, 03 around there. And I remember everyone saying, even you with that fast food liver can't try that. It's going to be disgusting. I remember saying, like, it probably will be disgusting, but we're talking about a brand like McDonald's. We're talking about an undeniable food that I long have established I'll eat it from anyone, all comers. I'll take that wiener from all comers, right? Maybe we can edit that out, Mikey. And I was like, it doesn't matter. I have to go through the drive-thru and get it. I have to. And I got it. And it was one of the most disgusting. I remember I was like almost not. It was a big, thick, fat red dog, almost like the ones you get at the when you go on vacation in Jamaica and you go to the buffet and you're just like, who came up with this color of meat? But I had to try it. I had to. Lawler versus Mike Perry, you got to try it. You just got to. I mean, it's ridiculous. You just got to. So, David Feldman, the thing is, I don't really actually love the format of BKFC, but there's a couple of things I do like about it that keeps it in my wheelhouse. I like that of the hybrid attempts in combat sports, which includes Triller doing that damn triangle ring thing they tried that they stole from BYB, and a few other things. This is the one that levels the playing field between boxing and MMA, between old fighter and young in a lot of ways. It's close enough, but it's different. And I think on top of that, they are, of all the combat sports promoters right now, the absolute best at essentially taking the trashiest pro wrestling soap opera storylines that you absolutely could find and injecting them right into their fights. And if you're down for that, if you're willing to wait in the drive-through line at McDonald's in 2004 for the damn Mick hot dog because you just got that dog in you and there's a new one and you kind of want that in you too. It's shameless, but they're onto something here. They have momentum right now. Even though Conor McGregor's name from a PR standpoint is, not doing so hot at the moment. Indian crossover boxing match against a Paul brother for $250 million reportedly notwithstanding. It does sort of spice things up when McGregor's, open containering it as a co-promoter on the sidelines, willing to, to kayfabe fire guys if they lose a fight. So, Alan W just said one thing that I got to put on the screen here. He says Lawler has a chance. That's the thing about BKFC. Everyone has a chance. It's different. It's weird. It's not like boxing and it's not like MMA. It is sort of this middle line where if you're gnarly enough, if you apply enough strategy or the right strategy, you can get it done. So, when you originally heard the idea of Mike Perry against Luke Rockhold, it was hard not to go, damn, that size difference though. And then Mike Perry walked right into Luke Rockhold's living room, right into his mouth, and basically was like, "You're gonna lose teeth and have deep gouge scars on your face if you don't tap out of this right now." You know what I mean? Are you willing to get in this side of the pool with me? Not many could. By the way, it was that same feeling we had of the potential of what the Jake Paul Mike Perry boxing match could be, a mismatch, and unfortunately, that turned out to be exactly that. But Mike got paid, which means Ocean got paid, which means Coach Latore got paid, and whatever he named his daughter. And I'm Team Perry in 2025. All right. I just talked in circles, mostly about things you probably didn't want to talk about. But now the good thing is, although Johnny Oggs is saying Robbie is old and slow, he'd get pieced up. Maybe he takes those bare knuckle shots and comes back with stuff of his own, though. He's had some time off. Okay. He's, here's the thing. Real boxers typically don't make the adjustment all that great here. But Alan W., you're right. My boy, your boy, Austin Trout, one of the nicest people in combat sports that I've ever come across. A guy that I loved interviewing in his prime. I called fights with him on Team Combat League. I really enjoy him. He's obviously a BKFC champion, and he's figured out how to kind of combine real boxing and length and distance into this gnarly sport and expose the lack of form and technique of his opponents, but not everyone else have, i.e. Paulie Malignaggi versus the GOAT. I mean, you know what I mean? Or the many other times. I would not put AG1 I would put AG1 in my body until the supply runs out, but I'm not drinking Faco. That's Rafe Bartholomew's drink. So tune in tomorrow, 11 a.m. to check out what that man is drinking. All right. Opening the floor up to you. The super chat is available if you want to support the cause and support the team and tip your bartender. But if not, how about we just rock out together for as long as your interests last, as long as my vocal cords last, until the end of time. Wednesdays at 4 p.m. It's you, it's BC, and we can have this intimate relationship that doesn't involve the removal of my organs. All right, what do you got for me? Okay, I'm going to try my best to navigate this. Okay, all right. No, I think Brendan, I think you'd be surprised. So thank you very much. All right, first and foremost, guys, speaking of Brendan Walsh, Brendan Walsh. Wow, speaking of Dylan McKay, no, speaking of Brendan Schaub and everyone else who lives in the greater LA area. Damn, this is some scary stuff out there with the fires, with the that was some tough news watching this morning on the Today Show and extended. But prayers up to everybody out there. Hope you're safe first and foremost. There we go. All right, there we go. There it is. Whoomp. In fact, there it is. All right, 2 Chainz is in the building. We know that. 2 Chainz, thank you for your support. One of the best boxing fans in America, right here. This guy loves comedy. All right, loves Reddit. Who's the better prospect right now? Abdullah Mason. Wow, Abdullah Mason. That's Luke's guy, representing Ohio, or Carmel Moten. That's a great question. Here's what's interesting though, is a guy I respect a lot in boxing, Alan Dawson. You may know him, a MMA and boxing reporter extraordinaire, UK, born and bred, now living in greater Los Angeles. Actually, I got to reach out. Al, if you're listening, man, I hope you and the family are doing okay out there with all that scariness. Al is great in my opinion because he's an old school gym rat. Used to live in Vegas, goes to the extended boxing scene across greater LA on the regular basis. And he was in the Mayweather gym a lot in the past few years and would always be texting me and calling me and going, this Robert Meriwether kid is going to be the future, the face of boxing. And I think the last time I talked to him, he said, I think he's actually a better potential prospect than Carmel Moten, which was wild to me because I've, been in the building for, I think 3 or 4 Carmel Moten fights over the past few years. And as the next in line, right? We're almost the new tank for Floyd as the fighter that, Mayweather Promotions is front facing, saying this guy is the future of the sport. It's hard to look any better than Carmel Moten has. But Abdullah Mason is further ahead in his development slightly, has shown a lot of the same characteristics, got explosive power, can do a lot of things. And even though he did get floored in his last fight and was in that absolute war, that shout out to Luke Nocita, shout out to Long Island Luke, who basically said at the end of the year, he said, look, I know what I know about boxing, but that's the best fight I saw all year. It was exciting as hell. That's my fight of the year. I still think long-term Moten, but I think Abdullah's closer to being ready for legitimate live body competition. I just think we've seen less potential, setbacks or misgivings from Moten or anything that is giving me anything to slow the process. Now, he's also not stepping up yet. He's also still fighting the requisite competition for his age and experience. But you can't discount the Floyd factor, the mentoring, it might lead to Moten one day wearing fashion as ridiculous as Floyd when he shows up with those knee length, leather horse riding boots that probably cost, $10,000 each. But I'm going to lean Moten at the moment slightly, but both of these two feel like can't miss prospect, even with Mason getting dropped in a flash way and being in that shootout. Absolutely great young fighters that I can't wait to see. And by the way, my guy Keyshawn Davis, shout out to him being he's further along than both of these guys. Obviously, he's ready at the title level, but him signing up for that February 14th triple header that Top Rank's doing at the MSG Theater against Dennis Baranchyk for the title at lightweight. Hell yeah. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. I can't wait for Abdullah Mason and Carmel Moten to get to that level because that's obviously when we really find out. But shout out to the young American fighters right now. I said it before. I'll say it once more. They want the smoke. They want to be great. They want to do it earlier than later. Boxing is in a weird spot right now where you can't, in a sense, where you can't get protected by a promoter as easily. Turkey makes them fight. You sign up for Riyadh Season, you fight. Floyd Schofield's getting Shakur, like you fight. So we're going to find out in theory about a lot of these guys. So excited about that. All right. Dave Sandy, burnt my brand Patrick Ewing shoes melted. Were you talking about like old school Ewings from like the early 90s, or are these still in production? Are we still seeing Ewings on the street here, or is this just some kind of inside joke? I just remember in 7th grade, people being like, hey, dude, check it out. I got these Ewing shoes. They're pretty cool, right? I'm like, you mean Patrick Ewing? Okay. All right. All right. Whatever. Yeah. Okay. Let's hear from Al Drum. Good old Al Drum. AL Drum. ALD Rum. Over under on Reggie making an appearance within the first hour. I'm gonna go under on that one, but there will come a time where that man will hear my voice and he'll be here and he'll kick the door down and he'll scream upon entry. And what that scream means is, I don't care what you're doing, I don't care. Hold me now, right? And you got to respect to some degree, his inability to have any form of self-awareness and just his want to be, main character in every situation. I wish I could be even more absurd like him and be like that. You know what I mean? There you go. All right. Good stuff. Lazy Bear, we got to remember BC is solo. We got to mind our chat so he doesn't get, I'm already discombobulated. All right. I'm trying to juggle here. I'm trying to, just trying to keep this thing afloat. All right. Indeed, Dave. Indeed. What we got here about Dave? Early 90s. Yeah, you were 13 and they sucked. Yeah, I mean, they weren't great shoes, but I think it was cool that Ewing finally got himself attached to one. I forgot the name of the company that actually produced those. But like people today, they just, and maybe it's still like this in inner cities, probably not, but they don't remember the pressure on an early 90s middle school, high school age kid. I went to middle school in 90, 91, and 92, that if you didn't have good shoes, it wasn't like, oh, you're not as cool as the others. It was like, you're a piece of shit, and would get, at least in my middle school, you'd get bullied for it. I'm not even kidding. It was a status thing. I remember seeing the absolute nerdiest kids fall into a pair of Jordans. And suddenly people are like, damn, look at that guy. It was almost like in Can't Buy Me Love when the nerd, paid the money to have the girlfriend. Everyone's like, oh, he's hot suddenly. I remember particularly in 7th grade, my dad being out of work for a short period, and we were very tight financially. And I wanted the pumps like everybody else. I wanted the Nike Air Huaraches that, eventually Chris Webber and Christian Laettner were both wearing there in the 92 NCAA final. And, I had to wear, LA Gears with the double laces. And, when I switched schools in 7th grade, I got made fun of constantly for those. I'm not even kidding. It's like, my dad can't afford them right now. Get off my back. All right. Lazy Bed wearing some Franklin, some Spalding, some Rawling. Dude, I mean, I remember specifically there was this Russian exchange student kid. And, I felt so bad for him. He showed up at our middle school in 8th grade and he had Batman sneakers. And in his mind, he's probably thinking, dude, I'm coming to the US. What's cool over there? Oh, Batman, everything. Let me wear these Batman sneakers. And dude, people laughed him out of the school for like a week. I remember he got into a fight that first week. And the rumor was that he had Kung Fu. So there was like a big circling on the playground before a local bully finally went in and gave it to him. Dude got beat up for wearing Batman shoes. You kidding me? It was real. It was a real deal. It really happened. All right. Who we are live. But yeah, you were Converse. And I had friends who we were in middle school going into high school, but they still had like, really small feet so they can get Jordans for half the price on the kids rack. I'm like, that's not fair. That's a genetic, issue right here that I had. I remember having it in that stretch where we had no money when I got off of the LA Gears. Do you know what I did pick up? Do you remember when Converse had those low Magics? Those low T Magics? No, those low top Magics. I had a white pair with the purple Magic emblem on each side. And just because they weren't LA Gears or, Pumas or, Avias. Remember Isaiah Thomas had that Avia sponsorship deal? Just because they weren't that, I felt like $1 million. No, don't talk, Dave. We're not talking about British Knights, okay? Because they weren't cool. They really weren't. Even when they came out with those, what were the big ones that they had in 92 British Knights? They had that diamond thing, the technology that was supposed to change the game on their shoe. Those were lame too. I remember a kid specifically, shout out to Bruno. He was just specifically got made fun of for bringing in those BKs. All right. You had at that point to essentially wear Nike, Reebok only if they were the pumps. I know this is a very small window here where it's basically, if I don't own these, I'm going to get beat up. You might. Okay. and Converse, but selective Converse. My Magics were ultimately looked at as like, okay, you're not cool enough, but you're trying. All right. But I did roll the dice in 8th grade when Sinbad started showing up in those Reebok blacktop commercials, because Reebok saw the success of White Men Can't Jump and the, you know, the in thing of outdoor basketball as being a thing. And they rolled out those gnarly street looking, I got the low top, blacktop Reebok ones. And, you know, shout out, first of all, to Sinbad. Here's a ridiculous anecdote for you. Jay Aaron, MK fame, Pennington James, when I first met him, was doing a comedy podcast with Sinbad. I don't know how that happened. Jay was the host, Sinbad was the other host, and they had me on early on, and I got to tell this Reebok blacktop story to Sinbad, who then told me, we're going to get your address after the show, and I've got a few of these left. I'm going to get your size, and I'm going to mail them to you. And I believed him, but it turns out he was lying. So thanks, Sinbad. Did love him in Necessary Roughness. Remember that football movie with Scott Bakula? It was fantastic. Yeah, I could see Danger Mouse rocking some BKs over there in the UK. See, they probably didn't beat people up for that. All right. I mean, you're not showing up to Airwalk, K-Swiss. See, mid-90s, people stopped caring about that as much. You're not going to get beat up on the streets for your Jordans in the mid-90s, per se, unless you're in a aggressive urban area. But Jake the Snake, how racist is the White Man Can't Jump title? It's not racist because it was against white guys who couldn't jump, and everybody sort of accepted and looked around and was like, yeah, they're right. You know, so it wasn't really racist. It was really never racist, to be fair. All right. Lazy, but you used to get a pair of British Knights if you got second place on guts. Dude, are me and Bogo, my best friend of all time, the only people who had it in for that female UK ref, Mora, thought that she was sneaky, thought that there was something going on there, tuned in just for her? No? Am I alone on that, Lazy Bed? That show, by the way, so much ahead of its time. Okay. So much. Dave Sandine, I was so cool back then. Reebok pumps with Zubaz muscle pits. I mean, that's as cool as you can be for like 89 through 91, I'd say. No doubt about it. I had an uncle who was, I was like 13. He was probably like 22. So he was the coolest guy in the world. Still one of the coolest guys in the world. Shout out to Uncle Mike. He rocked Zubaz and drank Natty Light. That to me was like the coolest person on earth. Thank you. There you go. That's what I wanted to be when I grew up. And for many years, okay, I became that. All right. Yeah. Shout out to please, somebody with me. Somebody get my back on this. All right. Let's get back into these questions here. Let's go over to Marc Antoine Dussault, my French brethren here. I mean, see, there's the thing. I like to say I'm half French, but really I'm French Canadian. Is that even a thing? My wife tells me all the time, you ain't French. You ain't nothing. You know what I mean? You're an American. Hey, BC, are you familiar with Weezer at all? I am, although I never went past the surface level of the radio hits, the video hits, but yes, solid band. Actually, my wife's a big Weezer fan. We'll rock the Blue Album. Okay, there you go. You say, I recommend the album Okay Human. If not, it's an album they released during the pandemic, and the title of the album is a response to Radiohead, with OK Computer. You know what, broski? Marc Andre Burial Dussault. I'm gonna listen to that. Okay, and then I'm gonna get back to you. Okay Human by Weezer. I did not catch that in the during the pandemic, but I will now, and I'll get back to you on that one. Appreciate you jumping on board here, letting your voice be heard. Yeah, I did rock a Thompson Twins reference, Alan W. Thank you for jumping in the show. Hold me now. But you're going to turn Thompson Twins into Creed. Yeah, see, Alan W., he's earned the right to complain in these parts in this bar about there being too much Creed on BC's stereo there on the jukebox. I don't know. I'm going through a nostalgic run. I'm not purchasing anything, but every time I do chores around the house, am I asking Alexa to play either one or the song you're referencing? Yeah, probably 2 to 3 times a day. Okay, I mean, come on, my own prison. Yeah, I mean, I'm as shocked as you are that this went from nostalgia to, damn, this old shirt still feels good and it kind of looks good on me. You know what I mean? I am from a factory town, Al. All right. At the end of the day, I mean, does anybody call LNW Al? I don't know. Could I be the first guy to do it? I'm trying to get LNW on this here show on a live stream. Guy says, you don't want to know me. No one's going to know anything about me. Okay. Jake the Snake, BCB, proud to be. I am proud to be American. When did you ever hear differently from me? Okay. I mean, like, where at least I know I'm free. All right. There you go. maybe I'll move to Greenland once Trump takes that down too. Wow, what a life, what a time. All right. Dave Santino, I played tub thumbing while Chumbawamba while housekeeping. Yeah, I mean that's fine. I can recall, by the way, the weekend that song came out, Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba. I get knocked down, I get up again. I remember in that moment visiting a friend at UConn in '97 for the weekend. Was it that year? And that song was so hot a couple days after it hit modern rock radio that we played it maybe 15 times in a row while playing the drinking game Asshole. And everyone would just walk down the hall and open the door, be like, "Oh, you guys hear that new song?" We're like, "Dude, we played it for like the 13th consecutive time. Come in, check it out." It's one of those times where one song just sort of took over. It kind of reminded me of the time I went to a resort in 2003 in Jamaica where I ate those giant red disgusting hot dogs. And, they had one of those clubs at the resort where they fill it with bubbles, once a night. And I remember they played In the Club by 50 Cent 7 times while I was there. And at one point, the dude's like, "If y'all don't come out here and fill up this dance floor, we're not playing 50 again." The ladies went out there and filled up the dance floor. And I was right there with them. It was great. But, yeah, one-hit wonders do have that incredible way of owning the space they're in. I mean, there's horrible ones like the Macarena or Lou Bega's Mambo Number 5, where it's like for a minute you're like, "Wow, that song's kind of cool and catchy," and then it just won't go away. And then suddenly your mom's like, "Yo, you hear this new song?" And you're like, "Stop!" Right? That was for me. Who Let the Dogs Out? You know what I mean? Because I was a fan of the 2000 Mets, who basically made that their theme song that year. You can't write this stuff. All right, let's keep it going. Let's keep the fun going. Okay. Thank you all for supporting what we got going on here. Let's go back to Lazy Bed. Hey, if Rock can drink and drive on Raw's Netflix debut, then Connor can pound Forge Irish Stout on BKFC. On second thought, he shouldn't. Yeah, I mean, it's really going to be interesting. I've written a piece for CBS this week to looking at the general storylines for UFC in 2025 from a company standpoint in general, matchmaking wise, financial wise, big picture wise. Are they going to pay John the money that I think he deserves to make the Aspinall fight happen? And I think it's a really interesting debate of, will Connor actually fight at all this year in the UFC? And what happens with this ridiculous boxing match? What happens with his relationship with the UFC? Will he be seeking personal redemption by getting back in there? Or it's going to be interesting. Yet it's really damning when you look at the stats, not just, that Connor's now 36. He's lost 3 of 4. He hasn't fought in the UFC in 3.5 years. He has one win in the last 9 years, one win. And that was a 40-second stoppage of a Cowboy Cerrone who was knocked out for the 3rd straight time and in the midst of a 7-fight winless streak to end his career. And, oh, by the way, he's trying to make a comeback at 185. So maybe Connor can come back and try that again. Dave says, what shoes is BC rocking in 25? Well, there's not as much pressure to get my ass kicked in public if I don't have good shoes these days. But I'm rocking a white pair of Nike running shoes that my wife surprised me with that are comfortable. And I don't usually have white shoes, it's that you got to really maintain them. But I really fell into the slip-on sneaker way of life, the Vans, the dad Vans, and that's largely what I rock, because as I often say in this house when people call me out for things, what am I going to do? Try to find a new wife and family? You're stuck with me. Okay. I mean, that's what it is. All right. This is how I look. This is what it's going to be. I'm from a factory town. You're going to have to deal with that. Okay. Lazy Bed. Are we potentially looking at a banner year as far as quality of cards from the UFC with the approaching broadcast rights deal? Great question. Because I will say, even though the same thing happened to Open 2024, meaning they came out swinging ahead of UFC 300. Say what we will about the year, and we've been doing nothing but saying that. Maybe to the negative degree, where people are just like, BC, I'm sick of you talking about matchmaking. The fight night cards suck, but deal with them. At least we get fights every weekend. 24 started out with a bang, 297, 298. I mean, particularly 298, 299, and 300. Hell yeah. But it kind of mirrored what the pro wrestling schedule used to be like if you lived and died with WWE, where, you know, Royal Rumble through Mania, which fits that same time period of the year, it's home run after home run, unbelievable. But then they basically are like, yeah, it's pay backlash time, and we're just going to do unnecessary rematches and put out things you don't care about and kill time for SummerSlam. I hope we don't have that. But the through line here, the key part of your question is the upcoming rights deal. Yes, I think we're going to see a much better year. How much better? It's hard to say because the model is set, meaning it's the quantity above quality era. It's the tail end of the ESPN era, which is about put as many fight cards out there and fights out there as possible, and maybe not, you know, care as much about the quality. And we're in the midst of, you know, a year and a half into full on gouging of prices in every category where TKO, Endeavor, UFC is basically like, how much money can we get out of our hardcore fans, even though they're not our target audience anymore. They'll pay for it. They'll pay for our ambitions through ticket prices and raising the prices on pay-per-view, although I think a few of you stream. Don't do it. It's illegal. But what they're really trying to get are, you know, like we said, government contracts. They're trying to get cities to agree to get the full TKO bundle and get, you know, SmackDown on Friday, UFC on Saturday, WWE on Sunday, whatever it's going to schedule out to be. Grappling on Monday, you know, after Raw. I mean, whatever TKO's full package. You got to get a full package they're going to give them. But the onus of having the product look as strong as ever during the negotiations leading into signing the dotted line. And I think ESPN should have like their own, ESPN's going to have their own period of exclusive negotiation. And then if they don't make a deal, you're going to hit the open market in here. Yeah, I do wonder. I mean, 2016, where UFC was looking to sell and look as strong as possible to get the highest value, damn, did they bring it. And it wasn't just the first half of the year. Even after the sale, which if you recall happened during UFC 200 week, they still came. I mean, that MSG card 205 is, you know, arguably the best and deepest card I've ever been live for, you know, maybe 217 also at MSG is number 2 on that list. But I'm going to say that will still malign to a certain degree the lack of consistent quality matchmaking in the Apex. I think we'll see less fight cards overall in the Apex. They're also going to go dark for a period to rebuild it, and I think that'll be good. It'll put them on the road more. But overall, yes, I think they're going to be looking to make big ticket things happen. If you want to show on Netflix or a Amazon Prime to not just buy into them, but think they're not selling the full package most likely to one entity. Their dream is to go up to the level of, you know, NBA and NFL, where you've got part of your pack. I mean, look at what WWE just did. It's the same bosses negotiating at the end of the day. WWE just got an insane amount of money from Netflix to put Raw on in the States. I know that internationally, Netflix will house everything, but in the US, just for Raw, you know, when they started splitting up Raw and SmackDown and they went away from just, you know, NBC Universal getting the full deal, they really found out how to get as much money as possible. I think that UFC is going to look to sweeten those people to jump in by putting on big events, by paying the money, whether they call Uncle Turkey or not, to make sure John gets maybe not 30 million, but whatever the number is that'll make him say yes. Maybe that leads to them rushing Conor back in just to get him, or maybe they're holding Conor as some sort of, you know, maybe that's why Dana's saying end of 25. Maybe they're holding him as an offer to whatever network, you know, you're going to get the build of a Conor fight and the opportunity to sell a Conor pay-per-view. I don't know, but watch closely, because this is the stuff that dictates what happens. This is the reason at times why people put their best foot forward, even in boxing. You know, I mean, 2023, Showtime and PBC had the year of years for boxing, their best year ever as a network. Arguably, you could say the best year for Al Heyman in that promotion, although 2013 on Showtime was really good because Al Heyman moved over there from HBO. But it was such a great year because it had to be. They were fighting for survival. And while Showtime Sports ultimately folded for reasons that had nothing to do with boxing or the success of the network, only having to do with the financial bottom line of parent company Paramount, you know, when they had to do it, dude, they brought their absolute best mostly all the time. Let's see if UFC strategically finds that point to do that. I'm just nervous, obviously, about the consistent price gouging and the idea that we're getting closer to finding out what that breaking point is where the sport is just way too oversaturated with no stars, Dana White Contender Series graduates fighting for small money and meaningless fights. The closer we get to that, driving away the hardcore fan base just for the lust of bringing in the next, round of young, curious 18 to 24 males who are like, holy shit, this is cool. Kid Rock's there. Yeah, this is great. But you never know. You never know what's going to happen. All right. Lazy bet on that drink. You smoke them if you got them in this chat. 2 drink minimum at least. Okay. For the BCX. There we go. I mean, I'm hoping, sorry, wrong button there, Alan W. I'm hoping we're eating good this year. We are live. We are live, whatever you're going with that. We deserve it. We certainly do. All right. Did you guys see the Monday Night Raw debut on Netflix? I didn't watch it yet, to be honest. I was in New York all day on Monday, was exhausted when I came home, had some family time, and did one of those complete 46-year-old old guy moves, which is like, you know what? I know it's only 8:30, but I could see myself falling asleep pretty soon. So I'm going to check out now. But I saw the big ticket items. I know they came aggressively. I know there was a little controversy about how much that Rock opening speech was purposefully killing kayfabe and just coming straight out and being like, this is who we are. Oh, hey, look, it's Ari in the front row, right? Yeah, there's a lot of that. There was a lot of Dwayne and Cody just saying, hey, forget about the storyline that we're in the midst of. I'm not going too deep. Okay. I got a point here, that guy. All right. Don't get all up on yourself. I mean, imagine if you hate 70s rock and you got to fast forward through 30 minutes of the show every week. Okay. Hogan got booed. That was the biggest takeaway. And you know what? It was awesome. It was awesome because, hold on, Luke Thomas sliding in here. Oh boy. Oh boy, that was interesting. Okay. Bat phone ringing there. It wasn't ultimately, a political thing. Everyone that said it wasn't is right, because Undertaker is also extremely, right wing, and he came out on the motorcycle and people were cheering, even though he sort of one-upped the female title change that just happened as he came out. It's not just pushing an old gimmick on us that hasn't changed in, outside of the Hollywood Hogan run, which is fantastic, and just, hitting us ad nauseum with the product placement, the Real American Beer, which happens to be a sponsor. And now you see WWE. This is a TKO effect. And I see WWE fans not liking this. Seeing suddenly the ring filled with advertisements like it's a UFC, thing. And maybe that doesn't matter to people at the end of the day, but it's a continuation of going absolutely as commercial as possible. But, they have, Hogan was off TV for a while after the whole N-word thing. And they just shamelessly have been pushing him down throats. But to see, like, he does get kind of consistently booed on a regular basis, and he did just walk out with Colby Covington. And it's like, I like that the fans in LA were like, you don't understand your own audience by pushing this guy this aggressively hard on us right now in the matter that you are. And it's not necessarily a political thing, but it's more of like an understanding. Okay, if you're in the UFC, the condition the fans to expect this, so you're going to go a more hard political lean. But WWE fans are largely the exact opposite. They're the cosplaying, inclusive side of things. So it was a big miss, and I wonder if that is the end of these sporadic legendary appearances here. And it's not like I'm wishing necessarily ill will on a guy that had everything to do with the launch of my wrestling fandom. And then when he turned heel, the Hollywood became my favorite wrestler of all time in a lot of ways, that version of him. But at this age, trotting out the same old gimmick, being a corny product placement guy and that thing, like, get that shit out of there. I loved watching those live videos that people were showing in the crowd, showing all around there. They had to pump in some cheers. That was straight up aggressive, hard booing. It was it was the funniest moment of the night. It was understand your audience, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm finally seeing WWE fans being upset about the TKO mindset here is not to put the fan first. It's to get everything from the fan, get everything out of them at the expense of the fan. But if you're entertained, that's the way to go. Two Changs, what do you got for me? Yeah, Ray Jackson on Twitter. I don't even know who this guy is, really. Jumps into my For You tab a lot, but seeing him get arrested, seeing Caleb Plant make those funny jokes and memes. I mean, look, boxing Twitter never fails to entertain you, even if it's going to offend you constantly at the same time. And even if these days it's harder than ever to find out, is this a real account? Is this fight being teased like legit, or is it not? But yeah, Two Cheng's back about Hogan. Yeah, he looked, it looked like it hurt him too. You know, it looked like he didn't expect that for some reason. It was weird, but we'll keep it going here. Alan W sliding in. Alan W is always welcome in these parts. Live crowd fans are hardcore fans. As much as Hogan helps how the sport, he also hurt the sport. Plus, it's character, not politics. Yeah, I mean, that's not, I think you're right. I think you're right. People are also just like, enough of this. He's not beloved anymore, and it's so long. None of these people grew up with him. It seems like, for the most part, you know. Interesting, very interesting. All right, that'll include the ending of our pro wrestling talk for those that don't subscribe. There you go. Reggie Jackson got arrested. We got to bail him out. I mean, Reggie is, you know, right now there's a new piece of furniture got delivered. So there's boxes all over the floor upstairs, and Reggie's sitting right in the middle on top of the box, like telling everybody, hey, I got this under control. All right. I'm going to control the situation. You want to go in the box, you got to go through me. So he's a little distracted at the moment, but you know, if he shows up, it'll be on his terms. All right. There it is. All right. Keep it coming. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, we hit that one already. Thank you so much. Hey, Paulie D's here. Paulie D back from the Jersey Shore. He's sliding in here with BC. Have you enjoyed your channel so far? Have you felt the love? DoorDash's loss is our gain. It is, by the way. I do miss dashing, but I do. I swear I do. I'm not. It's not a bit. All right. I liked it. It was like being the star of my own GTA video game in real life, and I like helping the community. But yes, have I enjoyed it? I have immensely enjoyed it. Immensely enjoyed it. It's given me a home for my content, like the old MK VOD channel used to be. So first and foremost, it's functional to my work, being able to post my interviews and such, and having a placement for that. I think it's a great extension of what we do on MK, and Luke's live chat has always been that, right? There was a point where it was on MK for a while. Connecting with you guys on this level, great for me. I mean, we're talking about my wheelhouse topics, you know, whether you like it or not. And if you didn't like it, you wouldn't be here. And it's not like there's 10,000 of you anyway. We're building a community. But, you know, I've always been like this, where, you know, we all aim for big traffic or big followings, and sometimes you get that and you're lucky, or sometimes you're a part of something that takes off. You know, I've been that with MK, or the time I was on Cheap Heat, the wrestling podcast, and, you know, other things I've done. But I'll always take, if you're doing your most honest core, like to your heart work, and in a lot of ways, this is that, or the podcast I do with Rafe, or have done for years with him. It's that's the purest form of BC you're going to get. When you can build an audience, it doesn't matter how large they are. If it's 1,000, 2,000, but they are hardcore, they are in it with you, life or death, wherever you go. That's sweeter at the end of the day. So maybe it turned into something. Maybe it becomes, you know, a part of the income consistently, or maybe it's just a hobby. I don't know. I thought I'd be further along development wise, but things came up. Things got in the way. I'm settled in nicely at the moment, even though it's sort of low effort to some degree, of having this chat every Wednesday, a boxing show with Rafe on a largely weekly standpoint. Fighter interviews randomly sprinkled in, and then every once in a while I'll grab an old friend in the business and talk about a fun topic, or drop a top 5 on you. I thought I would be more consistently prolific, but it can be hard when you are juggling 2, 3, sometimes 4 jobs on the side, which is, you know, what I signed up for in this business to a lot of degree. I'm ambitious as heck. I want to get ahead. I want to get to the next level. This has really scratched a creative itch, most importantly, that was on hiatus during our MK hiatus, or during the year, during the difficult transition from full on MK to no MK to MK once a week. And it felt very, you know, handcuffed. It's hard to do. It's hard to go from a show that's live 3 to 4 days a week, that's giving you content damn near every day, to doing nothing. It was hard, you know, so in that regard, I look forward to sitting down with Rafe. I look forward to sitting down and answering your questions here. And I love that. It really helps me, I think, in a lot of ways, get out of me creatively what I'm trying to do. So yeah, it's all good. But like I said, you know, I'm ambitious. I thought I'd be further along. I mean, I got this badass theme song ready. We're trying to get the intro animated. It's taken a while. Things are taking a while. But once we get that going, once we get the merch going, once I get more of a plan of what are the things that people actually do want, as opposed to the things that I want to do that I hope people want, There's always that balance in there between being satisfying yourself creatively and actually trying to look at it as a business or whatever, what have you. All right, let's go back to my French brethren here, Marc-Andre Barriot. What do you think? Who do you think has the best chance of beating Islam, including the welterweight division? And Mark says, I'm also French Canadian, by the way. Shout out to Marc Antoine over here, a real brother, all right, from another Quebecian mother, or in my case, grandmother. Yeah, my grandmother is from Montreal, so shout out to her in that regard. She was a painter, oddly enough. And what's awesome is, so she's my great grandmother, my dad's grandmother. What's awesome is her paintings growing up were in my grandmother's house because my grandfather was her son. And I grew up looking at these paintings constantly. They were in bedrooms, they were in hallways. And then when my grandmother passed and, the heirlooms were handed down, I was able to acquire 3 of these paintings from my great grandmother. So it's, this French Canadian artistry is skipping a few generations, but it's being passed down. All right, enough about my French history here. Who do I think has the best chance of beating Islam? Shavkat Rakhmonov. As much as I am more intrigued, I told you on Monday, what's the fight I want most in 25? If I could just pick off the menu in MMA, it is Topuria versus Makhachev, but it would continue that trend of Makhachev having, in some ways career defining wins against smaller fighters moving up. Would I just as much, or would it be more interesting just as much to see him move up and ideally, I don't know if ideally is the right word. I'm not trying to slight Bilal Muhammad, but I think Shavkat should and will defeat Bilal. And what's a better fight? Yeah, Shavkat versus Islam. So first and foremost, Shavkat. But in general, part of this lust to want to see this, because I do think if Makhachev beats Sarukian a second time, and oh, by the way, check my Twitter account if you haven't seen this. Have you seen, where's John Mayer? Did you see how much Sarukian's body is a wonderland? I mean, we already knew he was, first team all bod. But this dude is jacked to the gills, like He-Man action figure level jacked. All right. I think I got a lingering WWE action figure. Here's a shout out to Nunzio right here. Okay. Remember before Nunzio and WWE, remember he was in that ECW Italian stable that they had here. I mean, he's basically looks like this. Okay, so shout out to Nunzio. But if Islam beats, there's no one else to fight at lightweight unless Topuria moves up. That's gonna move. But I feel like, oh, this guy's next in line. I mean, I think Benoit Saint Denis will eventually get back to there after the setbacks he's had, but I don't think there's going to be a lot left for him at 33 at Makhachev. And look, Usman's coming. Usman Nurmagomedov is coming. I'm sorry to be first team all Dagestan super fan, and it wasn't supposed to happen this way. But can you tell me these guys aren't taking over the sport? Can you tell me these guys aren't collectively the best in the world, the best stable we've seen in a long ass time? They could all be champion at once one day. There's very few people I do think can beat Islam, but I want to find out. He's 33. I want to see what he looks like. And he's just said in an interview the other day, he said, the thing that matters to me the most is going up to welterweight and taking that title in terms of what's left to do in my career. So let's see it, dude. I want to see him against all those guys. Hell yeah. Marc-Andre. Hell yeah. Okay. Marc Antoine, my friend. You know what? We're going to start a stable, a faction in this chat. It's going to be the French Canadians. Okay. We're going to be the FCWO. We'll work on the title, but we're gonna get that. I don't know if Jay Paquette's French. Paquette's a French last name over there in Nova Scotia. He can join it too. All right. Islam versus Shavkat would be Maymac level hype. Yeah, you'd have to. It's kind of like when you were in sophomore year history class in high school and you accidentally popped a rod. You know what I'm saying? Like you were thinking about Cinemax late night and suddenly the bell rings and you're like, oh, I've got to stand up right now. I mean, this is going to sound as inappropriate as Luke Thomas leaving MKM Monday to shit. And then our fantastic Jake Von Amsterdam turning that into that great social meme, which was uncomfortable to watch, but brilliantly edited. It's going to be inappropriate and ridiculous, but it's something we had to deal with. Okay, we had to deal with it. And we're going to deal with it again if they make Islam versus Shavkat, because from a hardcore perspective, I mean, it's kind of, I was super excited for the first Volk Islam for the same idea of like the idea that it could be 1 versus 2 pound for pound, just 2 killers. I got to see what it looks like, but this even more. We got to see if Shavkat really is Shavkat. How much were those injuries holding him back against Gary? How much is Gary's performance holding him back? I wouldn't be surprised though, and I got to slight Bilal all over again, even though I said I'm going to stop doing that. What if Shavkat through Bilal? Nobody runs through Bilal. What if Shavkat does? That's going to would raise the stakes for this matchup so much even more. So, thank you. All right. Long Island Luke is here, guys. We can relax. We've got to put out the wellness check. He's here. He's ready. He might be. Okay. He might be. Shout out to Nosita. Nosita, I don't know if your dad's from Broad Beach, but that's where Jai Opetaia brought the boom today. So, shout out to you on that one. All right. What do we got here from We Are Live? Can you imagine how Luke would go off at you if you left a live show for a dump? I actually, I've left a live show to piss probably about 5 or 6 times. I used to feel bad about that. He didn't kill me as much as I thought I deserved in that regard, misappropriating my fluids in that level. But you got to understand, I drink aggressively, not alcohol. All right. I got a black liver. I can't do that. I drink aggressively. It fuels me. All right. All right, there we go. Okay, yeah, Long Island Luke, big super fan, big favorite around here. Did you know that Islam has 3 kids? Hey, Harman Sarah, how about you, bro? What? All right, welcome, bro. I did not know that about Islam. They don't tend to, the Dagestan guys don't tend to like publicize their family stuff as much as other people. But hey, Brantendo 64 is in the building. All right, love that guy. All right. Love that guy. Thank you for the support here. Cheers from the ashes of LA. Oh, dude, you're there. Be safe. I hope you're okay. Did you see the podcast with Rampage and Michael Bisping? Mikey B. Bisping straight up mentions the behind the scenes paychecks that Dana used to slip him. So is this the same podcast? That Jackson podcast with the necklaces where where Bisping took out the eye right away. It was just like, hey, check how gnarly this is. I haven't watched that yet, but I want to hear the story. Rashad used to tell me, people forget that, Rashad was very MK regular back when MK, of course, was, co-owned by CBS, and Rashad was working, as a sort of a freelancer there for CBS. You'd see him a lot on MK, but it was an extension of the podcast we used to do before MK together on CBS Sports. And he would tell me a few times about these milk boy loaded bag situations. And I know people like Luke, John Nash, Eric McGrath, they all think I'm crazy for thinking what I think about this situation. But I think I'm right, Brantendo. I really do think I'm right at the end of the day. I'm not necessarily accusing people of breaking the law, but I'm not necessarily not doing that either. All right. Here's what I want to say, though. Somebody DM me. Who DM'd me? They were right on. Somebody on Instagram, shout out to you, DM me. And they were like, BC, you had that conversation the other day on MK in the DMs from Donks about who's the toughest fighters in UFC history, the gnarliest, most willing to take on damage, most, fight through whatever. We threw out a couple names. I threw out Lionheart Smith's just ridiculous absorption of punishment. But, there's a lot of badasses through the years. Liddell, so many. This dude was like, how are you not putting Michael Bisping in that list? And you know what, Brantendo? He deserves to be on that list. Not just the constantly lying through the one eye scenario to get cleared for these fights and then going on to have the late career renaissance and upsetting his way to the UFC title. But dude, he took that knockout from Hendo in their first meeting that could probably end careers, or in the embarrassment of ending careers. Think of the knee he ate from Anderson Silva and somehow went on to win that fight and get himself in position for the title. Yeah, Bisping throughout his entire career, and I read the book, by the way. And it's not like I don't like Bisping. I didn't like him as a fighter because he was the cocky Brit and he played the heel perfectly. All right. I didn't think he was ever truly of that ilk in terms of being a champion, but then he earned it the hard way and he upset Rockhold on short notice and he rightfully went in the Hall of Fame. And I certainly don't love him as a color commentator, although I think he's a good personality. But if you don't think I don't respect every inch fiber of what makes this guy a badass, I do. Read his book. Ann Evans wrote it. It's very good. It's a good read. But the problem was I cornered Bisping at one of those UFC Apex events and was like, dude, I was legitimately touched by your damn book. And he, was like, hey, that's cool, but I got to get out of here. I told you the story before. And then I go outside like an hour later, he's still standing there talking to somebody. I'm like, thanks, Mikey. Thank you. But yeah, the dude's absolutely a badass. All right. All right, we're gonna keep it going. I'm trying to manage these questions. I'm sorry if they're slipping through the cracks here. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss any good ones while I'm favoriting others. I'm gonna get around to it. Okay. 2 Chainz. Rashad was cool as hell at the Vegas MK Live show. Dude, Rashad is one of my favorite people in the industry, and maybe even in general. And I did meet him before he had that big ayahuasca conversion, and he was a nice guy, but like a fighter, typical fighter in some ways. I mean, that's a negative statement, but I think you might understand what I'm meaning. But like that situation changed his life, like legit. And he's always very honest about that. He was a great podcast partner to have. He's great to have on MK, not just for his analysis, but but like he's just a charming, positive, sunny man. All right. I love that man. A real heart, just a great guy. I don't love this Rampage boxing rematch. And it's weird. Like we don't even have like a date or a venue or a network, but it got announced. I hope everything's going to be okay for them. It's not like I don't want Rashad not to make money, but it's like, man, that guy had a great career and it's over now. I don't want to see him hurt anymore. How fat is Rampage? These are the questions that are coming out of the top of my head there. But yeah, great dude. Thank you, by the way, 2Chainz, for supporting us, showing up at the live shows. I hope we have another one this year. It's not impossible. We're talking about it. It's possible. Okay. We might surprise you. We might surprise you with some of the good news lately that's going on behind the scenes in MK. Okay. I'm not going to say anything without saying it or say anything with saying it. But let's get an update on Long Island Luke's dad. He's not from Broad Beach. Broad Beach is in Queensland. My dad is a Melbourne boy. Okay. Shout out to Mr. Nocita there of Down Under fame. He comes from a land down under. Yes, he does. All right. Did you know that Islam? What is this? What are you guys setting me up here with an Islam joke? What's happening here? Okay. I don't understand it. All right. Yeah, everybody loves Long Island Luke. There we go. Okay, let's get back into it. Here. If Alan W sliding in, I'm paying attention. This guy's one of the real. The thing is, Alan W will call your boy BC out. He'll put me to the test. Okay, 90s NBA players, Alan says, that would thrive today. Sans MJ. He says, I'm thinking Penny Hardaway, Tim Hardaway, Damon Stoudemire, Nick Van Exel. So none of those picks are wrong. You're right. In theory, speed, insane quickness, and shooting ability would allow somebody to dominate in ways that in the 90s, for example, it could be a detriment. It's why I make the joke, although I'm not serious, because Steph Curry, 4 or 5-time NBA champion, multiple MVP, all-time great, maybe the best shooter we've ever seen. Yeah, he's going to be great in every era. So when I call him, if you'd be in the 90s, you'd be Dana Barros. What I'm really saying is he wouldn't be as effective in the 90s. He wouldn't be able to drive the lane with the hand check, or if he did, he'd be put in the front row by Rick Mahorn. Okay, that's how they got down then. But the number one choice, and all the old NBA players say it, is obviously Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, formerly Chris Jackson of LSU, because he had such a pre-Steph game, was such an incredible shooter, was, because of his, challenges he had with Tourette's, it led him to be a perfectionist in terms of his preparation. So the fluidity of his movement, the quickness, the head fakes, the everything, the speed, the dead eye shooting. I mean, that guy was playing in is he still playing in the three ball league? What do we call that? The big three? Is he still playing in that in his early 50s? The guy's ridiculous. When I got to interview him on Morning Combat, when he had that Showtime doc that gave me that opportunity, it was awesome. It was one of my favorite interviews ever. Love that guy. Damon Stoudemire is a great pick. Obviously, Damon was almost at an all-star level early in his run with the Raptors on bad teams when he put up 20 a game, and had a very respectable career, particularly with those Trailblazer teams before they became Jailblazer teams. But when you look at the speed of Damon Stoudemire, what he would be able to do in an open floor today with defensive 3-second rule, with with the fouls that they call, yeah, he'd be incredible. Now, look, Penny Hardaway would have been incredible in any era. Like it's becoming like, you got to tell the story if you didn't grow up with it, that for 3 years, Penny Hardaway was like the third best player in the league. And that's not even a joke. I mean, he was first team All NBA in 95 and 96, his second and third year in the league before that knee injury. What was it, 97? Really, never recovered from it. Tried the reinvention in Phoenix with that tattoo that said phase 2, the next adventure, or whatever the hell it said. And he was a, marginal role player eventually out of the league. Lingered a while, but he was Magic 2.0 and a better shooter and scorer, to be fair. Seriously. I mean, you go back and you watch, which I do all the time on YouTube, go back and watch the 95 Pacers Magic conference final series, or what have you. Even the series in 96, and that was probably the best Magic team, that 96 team that got absolutely destroyed in a 4-game sweep by the comeback Jordan 96 record-setting win team. One of the great fuck you series of all time by Jordan and company, because Jordan was so embarrassed about what happened in the 95 playoffs when his body wasn't in basketball shape and Nick Anderson stealing it from him and Jordan's looking bad winning the 4-5. Okay. Even in that series, you go back and you watch it and you're just like, holy shit, Penny was, just dunking on people, just rising up for three. Would have been great in any era. Tim Hardaway's quickness off the charts to be able to get to the lane in that era anytime he wanted to. Kevin Johnson and Tim Hardaway in the hand check era could not be contained with one defender. You couldn't, Kevin Johnson is so critically underrated, maybe because injuries really plagued and hampered him in the second half of his career. But Kevin Johnson of the Suns would have been a superstar lead guard today. You could not stop him from getting to the rim. And oh, by the way, he can dunk on you too. Ask Hakeem. So yeah, a lot of those guys. Nick Van Exel would have been a great one. And I loved, even though Nick Van Exel was, he was an all-star one time and Nick at night. The guy was clutch. He was great, but he had problems with coaches and had problems with teammates. But I love that old version of him, who he became first with the Nuggets, then with the Mavericks. He basically just became a dead-eye shooter at will and had balls. Yeah, but that guy's so quick, so incredible. He's going to be a star in any era. It's tough. Did anyone see that dunk by LeBron last night, by the way? Was that last night or the night before? And I'm not watching NBA day to day these days. I'm waiting for the playoffs, unfortunately. But he drove the lane with the left hand and then in midair switches to the right and just right to left and just absolutely crushes the guy. The same night Zion did that breakaway inverted 360. Holy, you got to stop them. The same night that white dude Cooper Flag from Duke had that incredible facial. Sometimes these things happen in threes and you got to stop what you're doing and remember that you do love basketball and you did love the NBA. They're just not making it as fun as they could be, okay? Enough of these Euro step bullshits, Alan, all right? I can't do it anymore. Thank you. Thank you for your service, Alan. Not necessarily in the war, but in the war of my life, okay? Thank you very much. Love all you guys. Let's hear from Devin Tuck. We've been wondering, is Devin Tuck here? What's happening? Who would you add for a celebrity co-host on MK? It's an interesting question because I've often looked at as a comparison, and the people that work on MK for the years know ad nauseum I bring this up. What's the greatest show ever that's kind of in vein similar to us? So, Inside the NBA on TNT, and it's, they had already the best show in the world with Ernie, Jet, Kenny Smith, and Charles Barkley. And they gambled on adding Shaquille O'Neal. And even though it wasn't an instant overnight success, it eventually became what it is now. All these years later, still the best damn show in the world. I've always wondered that, especially when we were in our MK prime, what if we went bigger than this? What if we gambled? What if we brought in a consistent third person and they were, an ex-fighter, more famous than all of us combined, but they also could play with us in our style and our jokes. And they could just as easily be talking about dropping a deuce as being there, because we were at these points, and hopefully we get there again, but we were at these points of building MK where it started to just become like, how big? Hey, Reggie Jackson's here, by the way. Reggie, get over here. How big can you dream? And, we had these conversations. How big can we go? Can we become Inside the NBA? Can we go on live from the studio every Saturday night? So who is the question, right? Who is that guy? I've toyed and thought and threw around the idea of Rashad and who would be that third fighter. We had Kiesa on Room Service Diaries at the time. I'm like, damn, we need somebody exactly like that who just gets us. I'm not sure who the best option would be, but I always wondered if it would work. You can throw out your Bappa. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, all right. Randy Cooter. I really wish we had Pat Miletich on the Jan 6 episode on Monday. That would have been great. Rashad was probably it because he did get our humor. He was respected ex-champion. People love him. I think that could have worked if we ever looked to expand either on a 1 day a week thing or a regular basis with a third guy. Or maybe that third guy's Chuck Mindenhall, who, is our pregame preview brethren in that regard. Or maybe that third guy's Pacer Allen, as Lazy Bet would say, just to inject us in the ass, and we need it right there. But there's a few options out there. All right, let's pause and get a little Reggie on him. All right, people, that's what Reggie, they want. They've been requesting you. The thing is, Reggie doesn't care about any of you or me. Reggie is here to get his. And like I said, at some point, you're definitely going to have to respect that. Alan W does. You know what I mean? As long as I don't talk too loud, Reggie's here. He's going to stay here. He's going to I'll be the falconeer. He'll be the bird on my arm. Okay. All right. Yeah. Take it to the extreme, Fancy. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Yep. Damn right, Fancy. All right. Reg, what's new, buddy? You keeping them in line upstairs? Every morning I tend to wake up to somebody saying, did you hear Reggie in the middle of the night? He had one of the girl cats pinned down. He was, biting on their throat. The guy will do that. You know what I mean? He'll get Me Too'd around. I mean, he'll just violently attack people. It's unfortunate, but it's the way he lives his life. And until anyone's going to stop him, I mean, look at the soft side of this guy. It's the dichotomy. You know what I mean? It's like Triple G can be the smiling, goofy Borat guy outside the ring and then kill you inside of it. Reggie's got that soft side too. We'll just, there you go. All right. Fancy, you for real? You hanging? You training over there with Sean Strickland at Extreme Cooter, or are you just talking about how you get down on Saturday nights? All right, let's get to the good stuff here. There we go. Alan W is the good stuff. Does LT honestly have all those ball movement problems as you say on the? I don't want to out Luke's ass, but everything he says is disgustingly true. The Joseph A. Banks story, I mean, it was a regular thing on our show at 10:55 for him to go, sorry guys, I got to run down the hall real quick. And that was like, I'm going to go just absolutely break some porcelain and be back with 1 second to go before the show starts. I don't know what that guy eats. I don't know what's going on inside of him, but you can only vape and drink Pink Monsters for so long before your body just rejects and comes after you. I've done that at Cumberland Farms. Okay. I've lived a different life, but is it really all that different? You know what I mean? At some point, your body's just like, it's you or me. Who's going out first? Who are you going to fix first? All right. There you go. Yeah. Good job, buddy. There it is. Yep. Just settle in. Okay. So that guy's there. Yeah. Happy New Year right back at you, that guy. Thanks for supporting the channel as always, right there. All right. Devin Tuck, channel is going great. BC, does Brett O have a truck? Yeah. So I almost had good old Bro Komodo on a few weeks ago, but then he was traveling. He's going to be on in the near future, which is odd because although it's become a running MK joke that Luke thinks I want to pants, Broco, really Brett's just my boy and former soldier in the trenches with me in the ESPN days. But oddly enough, never had him on MK. Had him, I think, once on my CBS podcast the first week I launched it, probably because him and I were doing, it's weird. I've done a lot of things in my time, and it's weird when people are like, hey, not a fan of you for this and this. I'm a fan of you for that. I love when people are like, used to listen to you and Brett Okamoto on the ESPN 5 Rounds MMA podcast, thought you were building something. I thought we were building something too, and then I left the company, Here we go. Brett's a good dude, though. Really haven't talked to him in a while. So when you see me talking to him on air, I'll be catching up with him in real time. Dad life, all that. Reggie life. Yep. There we go, Reggie. All right. The thing about Reggie is he does like to protect his butthole from your viewing, and I couldn't be happier on that. All right. We're gonna hear here from Stephen C. throwing loonies at me, and I appreciate you, brother. You're attracted to men. Hey, look, whatever your flavor is, Stephen C. I mean, you paid for that. You get that. It's your choice. I'm with you. I back you either way. I back the blue. Okay. The blue balls. You got to believe that. Two Chang's coming in with some boxing movie talk. Thank you, brother. Rank these movies: Digstown, Great White Hope, and Rocky Balboa. It's decent offering right there. All right. I've made the error in the past, in hindsight, of somehow combining Digstown and Great White Hope and Great White Hype, into the same movie in my memory banks, and I was called out for that and woke up to that. Rocky Balboa is the best of those three films. It was a resurgent Rocky film. It brought the franchise back. You could argue it really set the stage for what became Creed 1 through 3, even though Sylvester Stallone had an in and out sort of involvement on that. I think it's the only gripe I really had with Rocky Balboa. And as you can see, Reggie's looking at the ceiling tiles thinking, how can I get there? How can I ruin this man's sound protection that he set up just because I want to, right? The only thing I didn't love about Rocky Balboa ultimately was that I thought that they kind of the idea of Rocky coming out of retirement at that age against the recognized current champion who was under fire for not having beaten enough people and not being good enough, right? Played by Antonio Tarver. And then they fight. And I thought it was unrealistic, even though it's a Rocky movie, which is based in emotion and, arcade ridiculousness and not reality per se. I mean, can you watch any of the Rocky Creed, Rocky Drago, Rocky Mr. T fight, Clubber Lang fights and be like, oh yeah, that looks like Klitschko versus Brian Jennings? No, it doesn't at all. It looks like two video game Rock'em Sock'em CTE advocates just going at it. I thought everything was handled perfectly except for Rocky being in that decision at the end and overachieving. I would have liked it better if it was a little more realistic, and I'm picking nits here, but I would have liked if he had early success, knocked down Tarver, holy crap, and then he slowly got beaten down and dismantled, but he never quit, and he went out on his own terms, and the crowd cheered him. I didn't think they had to do the stupid Hollywood turn of, was it a draw, or did he win a decision? Is it outside of that, the grit and heart that they showed in that movie? Yeah, it's one of the best Rocky films. It really is. And it kept the franchise alive and gave it new life. I'm going to go Great White Hype second, slightly over Diggstown. But I think both are very good and more or less close enough in the same category. There's just something great about boxing that it just works in movies, whether you present it real or over the top. I said it. Is Southpaw with Jake Gyllenhaal a great movie and a perfect representation of boxing? No, but it's like gnarly enough and aggressive enough that it's like video game boxing, and I enjoyed it and I liked it. Outside of $1 Million Baby, spoiler alert, takes the hardest left turn into the ditch that nobody prepared before. In fact, one day I'll have to tell my dad how mad I was about that. I didn't tell him in real time. I remember he called me up. He had already moved to Florida and retired with my mom, and he was like, I saw this boxing movie in the theater. It's probably going to win the Academy Award. You got to watch it. You're going to love it. It's going to be whatever. It's like female Rocky. He's just decided not to tell me about that whole should we pull the plug or not part of the storyline and all the hospital and injury and ridiculousness. Not prepared for that. Still not prepared for that. You fooled me. Okay. The worst movie ever. But like Cinderella, man, it's pretty damn good. All right. Even when they're bad, they're kind of okay. I mean, I like the Creed movies. We Are Live. I didn't think that they sucked. Okay. Two Chang's checking me out here. Split decision win for Mason Dixon. Okay. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong and I'm the asshole. I just felt like I really, really had to hold that. What do we say as pro wrestling fans? That believability, that what's the term I'm looking for? Whatever. I really had to try hard to believe that was possible. And maybe a lot of us were talking ourselves into the idea in Tyson Paul that Mike Tyson could have some form of a real life moment similar to Balboa versus Mason Dixon in that one. It wasn't realistic. But doing the split decision thing, I guess it's kind of like the first Balboa Creed fight from Rocky 1 in that regard. It was kind of telling the same story over again, maybe as gratuitously as Star Wars Episode 7 did, where they basically just played to the hardcore fan as much as possible, but we needed it as a palate cleanser so aggressively because of episodes 1 through 3 that we just embraced it. It sounds ridiculous to say now. Maybe I should be embarrassed about it, but like I laughed, I cried, I cheered. I did things in the theater for episode 7, The Force Awakens, whatever the hell they called it, that I never thought I would do. I might have a few pops in me, but I never thought I would do that. Right. So, I don't know how I got here, but let's just get out of here. Maybe just some Creed to swoosh it around your mouth. Thank you, Long Island Luke. I appreciate that. All right. Yeah, R.I.P. Apollo Creed. I mean, really, Rocky should have thrown the towel. Let's be very fair. And also, Carl Weathers went down in real life, so he's not going to be in the Happy Gilmore remake. Carl Weathers, by the way, in Action Jackson. Nobody talks about how awesome and badass that 80s action movie is. Nobody does, and nobody talks about how awesome Carl Weathers was as Action Jackson. Not just from a PED standpoint. Not just from the fact that, spoiler alert, in the final scene, he drives a car up the stairs of a mansion into the bedroom of the villain he wants to take out. Action Jackson absolutely needs some respect. Thank you, Dave Sandine. In fact, we should do a watch along here on the BCX one day. It'd be fantastic. All right. Chu Cheng says, Dave, it was such a bad character. No disrespect to Tarver. He wasn't given a strong character in the film. He was just a set piece. Yeah, I think you're right in that regard. I didn't hate his acting, though. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't as good as Ray Allen in He Got Game, but yeah. Yeah, he wasn't Happy Gilmore, Dave. We know that. Thank you so much. Reggie, you into this or what? You out? You coming or going? I don't know. He doesn't speak English. It's hard to get in, hard to get through to him. All right, let's go back to the well here. Let's see what's going on. I like talking to Brody Moret. It's my guy. It's my guy right there. Okay, Brody, big King Kong Brody fan. What's your favorite Radiohead song or album? They used Reckoner on an episode of the Pac Marquez 24/7. Did they really? Holy crap! I got to go back and once in a while I like to do that. Go back and watch, the first couple episodes of HBO 24/7 ahead of a really big fight and just remember how revolutionary that series and Showtime's All Access was pretty damn great just the same. How important those were back then to get you jazzed up and to pull over crossover casual fans into getting caught in the storylines and buying the pay-per-view. But your question's about Radiohead. I've long been, or I'm in, Corey Marlin, shout out to that guy, great MK fan listener who's like, I tell you that story all the time. Was like, BC, I'm gonna send you these radio albums. I need you to figure out right now what is your favorite record. I'm still in the process and I'm still torn. The candidates are OK Computer, which was long my number one Radiohead album, and arguably the best album of the 1990s, and arguably in the top 5 of best albums ever. I'm sorry, it is. It really is. But the problem is, the more I fill in on the gaps of where I went, of where I lost and where I didn't follow the band like I should have, the more I realize it's a closer race than I thought between Kid A. Some people say Amnesiac, and I love Amnesiac, but I love In Rainbows more than I like Kid A or Amnesiac. Yet every time I go back to Kid A, I'm reminded that it actually might be their best record. Right now, today, at this moment, my heart's telling me that In Rainbows is my favorite album by Radiohead, with OK Computer second and Kid A 3. I do change that. I do change that often, sometimes on the whim of a listen. But those 3 to me stand out so much more. I mean, not aggressively higher than the others. The Bends, although it's not a concept album and certainly much more mainstream rock compared to the very intentional and aggressive soundscapes that they were making, in the future, it's still up there. Obviously, I mentioned Amnesiac. I'm slow on Hail to the Thief compared to the others. I haven't listened to the 2 most recent ones at any more than one listen at a time. I'm doing this as slow and intentful as possible. But if you want to ask me, what you did, if I had to go one song, what is my favorite? It's on Kid A. And the first time I heard it, I was blown away. And every time I hear it, I physically am moved by it. And it's the national anthem. It's jazzy. It's abrasive. It's aggressive. It's everything I want from them. And I was always not afraid, but hesitant to get into Kid A until I was actually ready to do what I did with OK Computer and basically listen to it 50 times and every time get even deeper into the art of what I was figuring out and understanding. And it's not going to be for everybody, and it's purposefully like that. But when you do the work and you finally get in on the inside and you finally understand where you are and what they're trying to tell you and what experience you're supposed to be gleaning from this piece of art, it moves me on a level that very few artists have ever been able to move you. That's why I esteem this Radiohead as the modern day Pink Floyd, as the true geniuses. I mean, look at the time frame that they put out those great records like Kid A, Amnesiac, some of the worst eras of mainstream rock and roll of all time, and yet they're doing something so completely different and fresh and not easy for the casuals to understand or pick up. The work must be done, but there's very few bands that I respect musically, artistically, anywhere close to the level. And the Smile, the spinoff band with Tom York and the other guy, great. And they're being prolific. It's crazy, putting out new albums left and right. I'm tinkering with those, but it's like I'm almost not ready to fully embrace and get intimate with those until I fully get through the band's key core ones that they put out, but whatever. All right. BC afraid to listen to Lana Del Rey because he knows he'll love it. Just say, I mean, it's possible, I try not to be judgmental anymore. I've so many years said I don't like this genre, this band, only to come back around and realize I was wrong. Early REM, great example. I was completely out of my element and wrong and not knowing what I'm talking about. So, it's like what Uncle Dave always said. There's two kinds of music. Kinds I like and the kinds I don't. Doesn't matter the genre, the artist, the era, the time, whatever. If it moves you, if you can derive feeling, if you can appreciate the art, that's it. I used to be a lyric guy only. I'm going to be very honest. I was very introspective in so many ways in my up and coming entry into rock and roll. When I discovered Bob Dylan at the level that I did in 2001, I felt like I died and gone to heaven and there would never be anybody that can top him or touch him. But then you look at a completely opposite group or artist like Radiohead that's doing that sonically rather than lyrically. And damn, man. You know what I mean? Damn, brother. Okay. What do you got to say, Fancy? Listen to that King's X album, Gretchen, BC. Let me write that down too. All right. I gotta practice what I preach in there we go. I mean, I'm in a great spot in life. I've got some key musical shaman in my life. Shaman, okay? Aaron Bronstetter just sent me a fantastic package, a mail package in the mail. It was mail too, of great records. Just a great friend, okay? You gotta treasure these people that put you on to great shit. Okay. Alan W. If you hit me again with the POTU with the presidents of the United States one more time. My wife knows how much I hate them. So she's constantly humming Peaches all the time to get under my skin. Damn. I hate that band. All right. Fancy trying to tell me that the first line. I'm not going to write this down, Fancy, unless I hear from you for like 3 straight weeks, and I'll give you a chance. But look, I didn't think I'd like certain things, and I love them. Do you guys ever heard of Tosh Sultana from Australia? I don't know what she's putting out there, but I can't stop listening to that one record I got. Okay. It's like Prince meets everyone. I mean, it'll blow you away sometimes. You'll be surprised. No, Brendan, you'll be surprised. Okay. Great stuff. All right. Let's get back. Lazy Bed's really trying to get me to answer this question. I mean, he's been aggressive in this direction. And, Lazy Bed's a regular here. He tips the waitresses. 2 big prospects fighting Saturday night, Jacoby Smith and Fatima Klein. Thoughts on either of these 2 highly touted youngsters? These are part of Saturday's return to form for UFC in the Apex with Dern Hebos 2. Great card? Nah, but we'll preview it at length on Friday's MK. And yes, I'm happy just to have it back. Okay, I am. I don't know much about Jacoby Smith here, and by much I mean much at all. To be fair with you, it might be a Long Island Luke question at this point. I do know Fatima Klein. I did think she's, especially after that last win, somebody to watch for in the 115 division. Look, there's a lot of, even for as much as Brazilian and for as much as female MMA is not in the best spot it is right now. It's one of the points I wrote for my CBS Sports story this week of the storylines for the new year. It's like, what the hell happened to women's MMA in the UFC? It's like everybody is talking about how there's no depth for the divisions and the biggest fights are just not up to the level of quality of typical UFC standards. And I'm seeing so many people deride them on social media that it goes beyond just people that, as Luke Thomas would say, that hate women, right? The quality has dipped down. The amount of, outside of 125, the amount of viable contenders per division has dipped down. Look at the quality of the 2 title fights at 135 this past year that got them both booed out of the arena. But with that said, I'm seeing an encouraging amount of female fighters, that are coming on that could be something in the future. And when I saw Fatima Klein for the first time, I certainly thought that. So she did have that loss to Jasmine Jasdavicius. Okay. So she's going to have to bounce back from that. That's July of 24. I must be talking. Which fight am I talking about? Maybe I'm going to have to get educated on both. Maybe I'm just a filthy cash behind the scenes right here. All right. Sorry, Lazy, but you worked hard for your persistence paid off, and I really can't give you anything on there. Usually if I think of fighters, Fatima Klein's got something going on there, but let me get re-educated and get back to you just the same. And there's a lot of non-Wikipedia page entries on this fight night card on Saturday, but I'm just happy to have it back. All right. Long Island Luke always has my back. Short notice versus Jasmine, if I'm not mistaken. Jasmine's also on a nice little run of late. Reggie's trying to say goodbye. Hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna let you out there. Just say something to the people, Reg. All right. Say something. Nothing. All right. There you go. There you go. All right. Michael Carson, we've been waiting to start the show. Where have you been, Mike? All right, there you go. Call me a casual, but I'm at the point where I'm more bummed if there's time without BC Luke content than if there's no Saturday fights. Wow. There's rarely time with no BC. I mean, I think we've done a pretty good job from the beginning. Mikey used to be big on this back when he was, our day-to-day guy running as lead producer of like, the other shows are going to sleep, we're going to work, the other shows are not going to put out shows on the holidays. We will. And I like that idea. I like to work and be aggressive more than sitting around. I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you supporting the show here, Michael. But, I think again, that's why I like this personal channel is I can scratch more itches of me wanting to be on camera and give the content I want. And hopefully you guys can get out of Luke and BC what you're looking to get out of us. You know what I mean? From a distance in that regard. All right. Back to what we were talking about right there. Dave Cindy. She's got something going on and goes by the name Aaron. Aaron Blanchfield. Remember she was the Hammer of the Month? There was something going on there. There you go. Sometimes I'm putting on questions and it turns out you guys are having your own conversations in the chat. So, if you're having fun there, if you can push the misogyny and racism aside long enough, I don't know if that happens in this live chat compared to Morning Combat, but it is a little bit of the same crossover audience there. Let's go back to Alan. Wrestling fans are greater than MMA fans. They booed Hogan out of the building with the Netflix debut. You must have wrote that earlier right there. I don't love all wrestling fans. I got deep into that community. I went and covered all those huge pay-per-views for ESPN and then CBS Sports. It's a very inclusive, nice community. No question about it. Great people, safe, nice people. But it's weird though. It's pretty weird too. It's pretty weird. A lot of cosplaying going on. A lot of adult men showing up with multiple championship belts on in the crowd. But yeah, they seem to be better hip and aware to certain things. Like when you see Hogan, you boo. Thank you very much. MMA fans are sort of like, oh, you're a despicable person. You're my hero. All right, there we go. There we go. Okay. We are live. What do you hit me with? BC, can you hit me with a couple of killer songs to blast in the car while driving? Yeah, dude, I can't stop listening. It's the only good song on the shittiest album of the prime Deep Purple lineup. What are they? Mark III, or Mark II, whatever they call them. Deep Purple breaks up its career of lineup changes into Mark 1, 2, 3, 4. My Woman in Tokyo is a car driving banger from Deep Purple. All right. Is it largely culturally insensitive? Probably at its roots, if not sexually. But My Woman from Tokyo is absolutely going to get you fired up and going. Main card minute of Luke Nocita, Aqualung by Jethro Tull. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I got two more for you. Oh, first of all, Fancy's jumping in. He's speaking to me. Willin' by Little Feat. Hell yeah. So oddly enough, I'm a monster fan of the Byrds. They're one of my 5 favorite artists of all time. I came to the song Willin' first through a Byrds cover. As I spill an entire bottle of water on the floor and loved it because it's, this great truck driving anthem. My grandfather was a truck driver. Never realized Lowell George of Little Feat actually wrote that. And then you hear his version. It's a little bit different and better. That's why I rock that fantastic t-shirt, that Nice Price, the great record store in Raleigh, North Carolina. Enoch Marchant, shout out to my guy. He's got a roadmap of the Tucson to Tucumcari, Tehachapi to Tonopah. Best t-shirt ever, one of the best songs ever, great driving song. There's a couple other rockers lately that I've hit up that are just incredible that I've come across on Sirius XM. Speaking of Richie Blackmore of Deep Purple, when he left Deep Purple and had that spin-off band Rainbow with Ronnie James Dio as lead singer, I've not reached deep enough into the Rainbow catalog to actually purchase the vinyl. But when you put on, what is that one song that they have? You know what I'm talking about? They got that one rock song that'll absolutely blow you away. That one hit by Rainbow. You're going to hear that. You're going to absolutely, what's that? Since You've Been Gone by Rainbow. Put that one on next time you're driving, okay? Put that one in your pipe and smoke it right there. Absolutely. Can you go Van Halen, Dave Sandine? Yeah, Van Halen is great. I mean, you mentioned 1984 and 5150, great road trip albums, but even more than that, God, my mind, right? God, my mind. Losing it. Fair Warning. My favorite Van Halen album. Not as good as 1 or 2, but my favorite album. I mean, I think it doesn't pound, it doesn't have pound for pound, all filler, no killer, Back in Black 1 through 12 are all perfect songs. But the best 5 or 6 songs on Fair Warning, I think, are better than the best 5 or 6 songs in any other Van Halen album. Fair Warning is an incredible driving song. Damn, do you not know Since You've Been Gone by Rainbow? That song could absolutely change your life. All right. No doubt about it. Thank you very much, Fancy. Fancy knows what's up. Okay. Blast that whole damn album, Fair Warning. I mean, the people always say, BC, what's your walkout song? I'm like either Unchained or Mean Streets from Fair Warning, Van Halen. Is there anything better than that? Okay. Yeah, damn right. That's the best one. Yeah, 1984 album. So 1984, the actual year. So first of all, 1984 about Van Halen, the last studio album with David Lee Roth. In a lot of ways, their aggressive turn to commercial, to unabashed turn to, they didn't do videos much for their first few albums, even though that was the era of MTV on the rise. But they came around aggressively for the 1984 album. They had some of the best music videos of all time, like Hot for Teacher, Jump in Panama were both fantastic. But I got MTV, I got cable TV May 1st, 1984, when we moved out of an apartment. My parents bought their first, house that we lived in, and I was 5 years old. And like I always say, I was there when the cable guy hooked up the cable box, turned the TV on. He happened to turn it to MTV, and the video "Would I Lie to You" by the Eurythmics was the first thing that played. And I was like, and didn't turn the channel for 3 years after that. That was the year 1984, and that was the year of Van Halen and David Lee Roth. And yes, that album cover, my dad had the cassette tape. It was such a huge part of my life. I'd like to get a poster of just the Van Halen 1984 album cover with the child smoking a cigarette. Yeah. I mean, the Rambles are real. It's up to you to decide if it's something that you're actually into. Fancy bringing back something that so the first Lazy Bed saying Third Eye Blind Jumper is about Sue. Yeah, well, it is, but it's also a great song, and as Long Island Luke knows, an absolutely great album. Here's the point that Fancy wanted to make. Do I like Van Hagar? Yes, certainly not on the level of Van Halen, Roth, Prime era. We don't talk about the Gary Cherone era in these parts. But for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, you're going to throw out Balance as a good Van Hagar album. I don't like Balance. We've got a couple good songs out, but I'm not here for Balance. The Fuck album, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, which is not even the best. It's kind of like, it's not even the best Van Hagar album. That would be 5150. It's not even and it's certainly not a consistent album from start to finish. There's a lot of filler. But like me saying Fair Warning is ultimately my favorite Roth era Van Halen album because the 5 or 6 best tracks are better than anything else, you could argue that the 4 or 5 best songs on For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge are as good or better, or maybe the peak of how good the Hagar era actually was. Even though Van Hagar as a band sold so many more albums with 5150 and OU 812 by having sort of softer, not necessarily adult contemporary hits, When It's Love, like that kind of stuff. But they went aggressively in the other direction from what David Lee Roth was doing and appealed to a softer side of hard rock fans. They came back into rock for the Fuck album. I mean, go put on Pound Cake right now, okay? Run Around. Top of the World with that riff by Eddie. Man, I had that DVD that Van Hagar put out of live performance, and as much as Sammy can drive you nuts at times, Eddie still had it in that run through the early 90s. I knew people who saw Eddie in Hartford on the Gary Cherone tour in 96 and were like, yeah, he's still got it. The problem was the one and only time, and I've told this story before, the one and only time that I saw Eddie in person was what I didn't realize at the time, when he was at the peak of his alcoholism in 2004, when they reunited with Van Hagar only as a money grab. They didn't talk to him at all behind the scenes. They hated him, and Eddie was too drunk to even play guitar. Yet I bought 4th row seats at the Worcester Spectrum in 2004 to see Van Hagar under the guise of like, this is probably the last and only time I'll be able to see Eddie live, so let me sit as close as possible. And the phenomenon happened that sucks, and it's happened to people, when you go to a concert but you sit too close and in the wrong spot to where the speakers are playing out. And I was in a spot in the 4th row where I could barely hear Eddie's guitar, and on top of that, he mailed in the performance and didn't even play his own solos. And I felt so damn ripped off. The only thing cool that happened was he brought out 16-year-old Wolfgang, who did a solo back-to-back with him of Eruption in a father-son moment that, still has to touch you in the same manner that it did in the late 80s when Ken Griffey Jr. got in his dad's way and caught the ball, right? And then they hit back-to-back home runs, and I had the Griffey and Griffey, the Next Generation poster in 4th grade on my wall and thought it was the coolest thing ever in that same regard. But then I read Sammy Hagar's book years later, and he's like, that tour was the worst thing that ever happened, and Eddie was out of control and whatever. So it happens, all right? It happens. Changs, what do you got for me? Crisscross Jump was the top selling rap album of 92. Also Atlanta first platinum rapper is kind of a funny music nugget. Dude, Crisscross was huge when I was in 7th grade. All right. Huge. I remember, in fact, I came into 7th grade homeroom the next day. My teacher was like, hey guys, guess what happened yesterday? We went down to the Starter factory in New Haven. So if you guys don't know, Starter, remember Starter jackets? Remember the damn Orlando Magic or Charlotte Hornets starter jacket that every kid had in 93 and 94? Though that was in New Haven, Connecticut, like in the ghetto down, well, most of New Haven is, but it like down by the docks. And they had at the factory, a factory outlet store where they had, hugely expensive parkas and satin starter sports jackets on sale. So even though I was in a time where I was wearing LA gears because my dad was going through a job change and we didn't have money, on my birthday, we went to the starter outlet and I got an Atlanta Falcons the same year that Jerry Glanville turned the Falcons colors to black, bought a ticket every game for Elvis, and let Evander Holyfield and MC Hammer run on the sidelines free and wild. I had the black Falcon starter coat. Damn, that was power. That was a moment. All right. It was a moment. But I remember the next day coming into school one day and my homeroom teacher being like, hey guys, I was at the Starter factory outlet yesterday and they shut it down because Crisscross came in. And they're like, we got pictures with him and everything. I remember thinking, man, I'd switch places with that teacher, even though she was some old female lady, and a second back then to have met Crisscross. All right. Too bad they're pretty lame. I think one of them's dead, but yeah, Hornet starter episode of yeah. Shout out. Okay, it was fire, Alan. It was absolute fire. Okay, yeah. All right. Alan's got some. Did I see Moon Age Daydream? That's Bowie's doc. Is all free. Yeah. So when Moon Age Daydream came out, it's the doc after Bowie's death about his career and more about Bowie as an artist, not just music artist, but art in general. Just as he's a physical artist in every way. I went alone on like a Sunday night to see that, and the only showing it was happening in my area. And when I say I was in the 8th row, I was in the 88th and a half row. And yeah, that was a great documentary in person. The music, the way it was presented, everything. If you haven't watched it, it's worth your time. It's worth your time to get all saucy or lit up and check that out. So thanks, Alan, for that. There ain't nothing like a great music documentary. Nothing like it. All right. Jay's here. Was that Jay Aaron or Jay Allen? That's my guy right there. All right. What up, B? Yeah, what up, Jay? Okay. 1967, Muhammad Ali, 25 years old, right before the title stripping. So they say, the historians will say that the Ali who defeated Cleveland Williams in what's that, 65, 66, 67, right in that window, was the mountaintop Ali version, was the fastest, most on top of it, just on top of you as a fighter. The same guy who beat Liston twice, who beat Floyd Patterson twice. Prime Ali. Him versus 2018 Usyk, who was 31 years old and fresh off of the cruiserweight WBSS. Let's say they meet at a heavyweight catch weight of 215. It's a great question. You got the 6'3" Usyk, the southpaw. But Ali's not going to be at a huge size disadvantage there. Maybe what, an inch in height? Dude, the pre-draft evading or sitting out, the pre-stripped of the title Ali, you got to make a case to pick any heavyweight to beat that version. Because whoever was that fast, fluid at this weight, and on top of that, and which we found out in the second half of his career when he had a lean on it, when the legs, began to defy him, the toughest son of a bitch, the most determined. I mean, there's so many things obviously that go into Ali being such a all-time great, compelling boxer, or in fact, just person, just cultural phenomenon. And a lot of that is obviously his later life philanthropy, his ambassadorship of the sport, and really life in general. I mean, that guy was beloved for a reason. But like in a boxing sense, the backbone and willingness to his own physical detriment, obviously, but the willingness to literally go through whatever he has to go through to get his hand raised, that dog in him to not like outlast you for the sake of showing that he can, but for basically saying, I will do whatever it takes to win this fight. And the idea that Ali had that run in the 70s where, I mean, even through the Holmes fight, which never should have happened, right? Where you're just like, if anyone can pull it out, it's Ali. He'll find a way. That guy's beating 2018 Usyk. That guy's beating almost every heavyweight of all time. I'm here to tell you that the Usyk of now, the guy who beat Joshua twice, the guy who beat Fury twice, is an all-time great heavyweight. Even if you want to argue him into the top 10 and make a strong case that his size and combination of footwork and hand speed and everything that he's got going on, that he could, yeah, I think he's of that ilk and of those guys, but he's not going to beat Ali. He's not going to do it. Nobody's as quick and accurate and just and on top of that, I mean, look at what go back and rewatch when he was Cassius Clay and he upset Liston. First of all, he was an underdog in the first 1 and 2 against Liston, which is wild. But the show, the mental show that he put on leading up to that first Liston fight, thinking to himself, what's the one thing I can do to get in Liston's head? Liston's a killer. He's the guy that groomed George Foreman to become the killer that George Foreman was. He was the model for that. He was a killer, had run through Floyd Patterson twice in a round each, right? Ali's like, I'm going to prove to him or get him to believe that I'm crazy, that I'm dangerous because I'm crazy. That's the baseline, the foundation that Ali built for that fight. And, and if you've watched that fight a million times, like all boxing fans should, there's some hijinks and BS in that fight. There's something on the glove that got in Ali's eye, and he's blinded for like a round and a half. And he made that guy quit on his stool and fake a shoulder injury, just like he made George Foreman ultimately quit when he knocked him down in Zaire. And George just like, yeah, I'm not getting up. Just like he outlasted Joe Frazier in their trilogy, where both men were literally willing to die in that ring in 100-degree temperature in the Philippines. The salt of that man, what he's made out of. There's very few boxers in history. Forget his cultural greatness. Forget so many things that makes Ali famous. Let's just talk about Ali the boxer. He's going to find a way to beat you in his prime. And I love some Usyk. But no, I can't. Two Changs. How does Vladimir Klitschko versus Oscar Bonavena, Jimmy Ellis, and prime Ray Mercer do? So here's the thing. The argument in favor of Klitschko against gritty legends like this, and I think Vlad did face a very older, or a past prime, but still with it version of Mercer, and didn't he knock him out? But that wasn't the best Mercer. The best Mercer was the guy who lost to Lennox Lewis, in my opinion. Even though he lost that fight, even though Mercer would go on to win a share of the heavyweight title, he could be up or down. He was up that night in Madison Square Garden. If you haven't watched Lennox Lewis versus Ray Mercer, all 10 rounds of it, watch it tonight. It's an awesome, totally forgotten heavyweight fight that nobody talks about. But the argument for Klitschko being that he's of the super heavyweight era. So he's 6'5", knockout power in both hands, good boxer, big jab, all of that. The idea that you could match that against any era in size and power alone, and IQ and conditioning and everything, he's going to be in that. I don't hate that argument. And I don't hate Vlad. I was a big time fan of Vlad, particularly in the time when he joined forces with Emmanuel. He wanted to put the 3 knockout losses behind him. He wanted to turn into, something legit. And he had to swim through some, remember the first San Pedro fight when he had to get, he got up from the canvas 3 times to outlast him to get himself in position to fight Chris Bird in a rematch for the title. I loved that guy. What I didn't love was the version that Vlad became once he was on top, once the era was devoid of any heavyweight with a pulse. He had a size, skill, power, everything advantage over these guys, and he was still fighting safe, jab, hold, clinch, lean. I hated that. It forced me to sort of downgrade how good he actually is and what he can do. And the thing I was, that's why I'm still mad about Luis Pabon not letting Povetkin in that fight against Klitschko cook and go for it. Because Vlad was never fully, maybe until the Anthony Joshua fight, when he came back and fought with balls and a half. But before that, like I covered the Bryant Jennings fight at Madison Square Garden in person. Klitschko dominates the first half of the fight with the jab. Jennings goes, okay, I got to try something. He starts athletically leaping in with shots. Klitschko's overwhelmed, just holds the rest of the fight and cruises to a win. And everyone's, celebrating him. And oh my God, he's got so many title defenses. He's got 20, which is not nothing. I mean, it's closing in on Joe Louis, but it's like he's in the worst era ever, in my opinion, against some guys who literally do not have a skill in their tool belt to beat him. Meaning they might be big, but they can't punch or box, or maybe they can punch, but they can't box or move. I mean, there's always just something completely holding him back in that regard. And it's like, if that guy's in there, I used to say it. I'm like, put 20, 12, 13 Klitschko against secondary heavyweights from the 90s, like Ray Mercer here mentioned here. And I'm like, I used to talk shit, but I'd say this guy's going to get to his chin and knock him out. And I do believe that. I believe if he had fought Lennox in a really big fight, and it didn't align because Vlad fell apart just as Lennox was exiting the sport after having that war with Vitaly. But if they would have fought, I'm still picking Lennox by knockout. Basically, I'm picking all the greats by KO over Klitschko because I don't think Klitschko believed in his chin. He did in the Joshua fight. He was a man and a half in that one. But I mean, you're giving me guys that are sort of second tier for their era, but second tier 70s guys are going to beat Klitschko, even with that size difference, even with anything. If you're a little bit slick and quick on the inside, you're going to give him problems. If you're aggressive and you go after him, you're going to force him to really fight safe. And I think guys with the skill that you're talking about, Jimmy Ellis, I think they could exploit that. There may be people that hear that and go, you're crazy. Klitschko's a super heavyweight, 6'5". He's this dude. He had Emmanuel Stewart know it. They work to hide those deficiencies. I'll give Vlad so much credit for that consistency. But he should have been polishing off a lot of these dudes that he let go the distance with him or let linger with him. Corey Sanders, as Alan W.'s pointing out, from South Africa was a fun heavyweight. Knocked out Vlad and then, got Vitaly chasing him to knock him out to win back the title. Yes, he did. For an older southpaw heavyweight there, Corey Sanders had sneaky speed. He was aggressive, shook Vitaly. Well, dude, he straight up stopped the shit out of Vlad. But, Vitaly always had that big brother thing in him where he'd go pick up the mistakes of you wronged Vlad. I'm going to take you the hell out of there. Indeed. Tony Thompson went 11 with Vlad. Yeah, that was pretty wild. I mean, there were guys that were sort of close to having moments against Vlad that really had no business in that regard. And Corey definitely pummeled Vlad, as you would go on to say, no doubt about it. All right. We got anything else here to get through? I appreciate you all today. Let's see what Two Chings else to say in here. Clarissa Shields movie made more money than George Foreman movie. Surprise. I'm not surprised. I'm going to tell you guys that movie from Clarissa Shields that I got to see for free with my son to screen it. It was the first time I've done a million screeners, right? On the, where people say, hey, new movie coming out. Would you like to interview the star or the director? Here's your screener online. You can watch it now. Put in the password. This is the first time where they were like, no, you need to go to the theater and we're going to rent the entire theater out for you and your son. And as soon as you show up, give a thumbs up to the guy up in the window and he's going to press play. That's basically what happened. I said it before in this chat and I mean it. It was a great movie. You're coming in there thinking you're getting a stereotypical hero story of somebody from nothing overcoming, and it's going to be, and you already know the story because you're a boxing fan. So what am I going to get out of it? I had the same thoughts in my head. I'm like, what are they going to do in this one to entertain me, to give me something else to think about? And it wasn't just the gripping acting portrayal of Ryan Destiny, who played Clarissa, and I forgot the guy's name, who plays her coach, Jason Crutchfield. And that dynamic between them in the movie is heartfelt and amazing. It's gritty, and it really uses Flint, Michigan as a character. And it really shows a few things that, that Clarissa sometimes can be her own worst enemy, doesn't want to conform. And they use that as a way to show that she's somebody who stood on her own business and said, I'm not going to conform. I'm not going to put on the lipstick and act all nice in the interviews. I'm going to be me. But they committed, and Clarissa, in the interview I had with her, basically said they looked at the documentary that came out of Clarissa's second run to a gold medal, and they basically mimic those scenes word for word, shirt for shirt that you're wearing, and it all feels very real. It's a very good movie, and I think it's going to inspire a lot of people, even though and to be fair with you, in boxing, people don't like Clarissa Shields. They think she's a jerk. She's great, though. She is great at what she does, and she has an incredible story, and I think that gets lost sometimes because we are quick, maybe rightfully so, to label her as that. And Arturo there from the UK, straight out of Mexico, big fan of yours, buddy. The Fire Inside is the film we're talking about, so thanks for the support. I was literally, legitimately moved by her story and what she did overcome, and thought I knew it all. When you watch it on the screen, you really feel it. And for a story that I knew all of the pieces coming in, they found a real way to inspire. My son was like fired the hell up after that movie. He was like, I can't believe everything she overcame to get to where she is today. I could see the wheels turning in his head. And my son, both of my kids, are incredible overachievers, overcomer of so many medical setbacks and challenges. And it aligned with the life he's trying to live and the things he believes in. And I hope Shields will be able to use this film to soften and maybe change her image. But if she doesn't, you know what? I've always respected her because she's real as shit. And I don't always, agree with everything she says. I know people in the boxing industry who's like, I know her and she's an a-hole and she, deserves when people criticize her. I mean, I won't go that far, but I respect that she's always her 100% and is like, this is who I am, like me or not. I do respect that. And I'm happy she's having this moment. Let's see. It did make a lot of money. Let's see what it can do here. I don't think I am, Alan, but I hope. I mean, I really don't think I am. I really don't. The presidency of the United States, you're trying to press my butt. You're trying to counteract my creedism. I knew that. I knew you would do that to me, Alan. I knew it. All right. We got anything else before we shut down? Michael Carson's back. We love this guy. I'm a 90s child, but my music taste is pretty similar to yours. I think for MK content, I need to see you and Luke on a road trip, but you control the radio. It's funny. I wish we had cameras. There were a few times where Luke and I were in the same city where he's like, hey, want to go to the dispensary or something? And we go drive a distance in my orange Subaru. And he's like heckling me to extreme. I remember one time I had, John McLaughlin, one of the great, jazz guitarists of the 1970s fusion movement. He's got a spin-off band called Shock T, where McLaughlin plays acoustic guitar in a very Indian manner and just, it gets jammy and ridiculous. That happened to be playing when Luke got in the car one time. And I'm like, oh, you don't like this? Let me turn on some Mahavishnu Orchestra for you. Check out Billy Cobham on drums. And he's just like, can you take this ridiculous little fair stuff and throw it out the window? I guess it would make for good content in that regard. I'm trying to find more ways Luke and I can connect. We can certainly connect on 90s rock. He likes Rage, but for a guy that's so aggressively opinionated against everybody else's opinion of everything else, right? Highly educated, is a guy that seeks out fine restaurants and food and drink and has an opinion. I don't know where he went wrong on music. Damn. Maybe it's a trauma in his life. I love you, Luke, but come on, man. Come on, man. Right. Thank you, Michael, for your love and support here. All right. Alan wants to go back in the boxing lane. Michael Grant versus Vladimir Klitschko. Grant was unfortunately too flawed, even though he was fun and his absolute prime, which led up to the Lennox Lewis title shot at Madison Square Garden. And I think he kind of had a moment early in that first round, just like Shannon Briggs did against Lennox Lewis that people forget. But boy, did Lennox Lewis right that wrong. And you got to see the patented Lennox Lewis finishing uppercut, as nasty as ever in that fight against Grant. But Grant was 6'8", jacked, pretty good athlete, did actually linger in the heavyweight picture longer than people remember. But Vlad's going to knock him the hell out. I mean, look, Vlad is technically there, technically a gem, power, good hand speed for heavyweight, great size. I'm not going to rip on his heart. He showed you that against Joshua. But like I said, he didn't bring that to a lot of those fights when he was on top. He became very GSP 5-round protective. And I I don't overly respect that, considering the physical advantage and technical advantages that he had over everyone in that regard. I get that Vlad wanted to change who he was in the beginning when he first became champion, when he ended up losing 3 times by stoppage and, gassed out or was too aggressive like he was against Corey Sanders. But he went completely the other way with it, It's whatever. All right. A couple more before we end here. Tobias jumping in. Tobias Reaper. Big fan of this guy helping out the chat. Yeah, Toby. That's my guy. Am I bugging, or did you talk about watching a CNC Music Factory concert in a middle school gym a while ago? MK all day. Tobias, this is a hell of a story. All right. My best friend, I've had 2 growing up. Jeff Bogus, my man, and shout out to Ed Dooling. Those 2 are the best men at my wedding. Those are the guys I get together with from high school and play cards and laugh at each other and make fun of who we hooked up with in 8th grade. Those type of relationships. Ed went to Manhattan College in the Bronx, and he was the manager of the basketball team. And I became that weird friend who shows up at your college almost every weekend and becomes the life of your parties, sometimes to a detrimental degree, right? I ended up getting banned from his dorm building for life for throwing bottles out of an 8th story window into an alley and watching them smash, just stupid things like that. But one weekend we had one of the wildest times ever when it was like Manhattan College basketball, like opening night. What do they call that? The thing they do for the midnight magic. What the hell they call that thing? You know what I'm talking about? So, we all got ridiculously drunk and stoned and went to the game. And after we left the game, and, to show you how ridiculous and out of control I am, I paid $50 to have my own T-shirt jersey made that said Manhattan with the number 1 with my nickname on the back, which back then was Soup. That's what everybody called me. And I was so wasted that I jumped into the layup line for their Midnight Madness game and got kicked out by the head coach, who was like, yeah, go drink another, you weirdo. And, people in the school were like, who's this absolute weirdo? But when we walked out of there, we were walking by on the way to the bar scene, and there was on the grounds of Manhattan College this little like auditorium with a stage, and there was a sign out front that said CNC Music Factory Live. This was 1998. So that's like 6 to 7 years removed from that prime when CNC came out with the Gonna Make You Sweat and the 2 or 3 singles that they had. And I was the 90s nostalgia guy in me, and it was still the 90s at that point, was like, holy crap, because I've always said that Gonna Make You Sweat by CNC Music Factory is the ultimate wedding reception dance track. That is the number 1. If you say BC, because I will tear up, you invite me to your wedding, I will tear up the dance floor. I will own it. You will kick me off of your own wedding's dance floor for owning it. All right. That's the song that's going to get me to go nuts. All right. That's my song. That's my jam. Okay. All right. That in Good Vibrations by Marky Mark and the Funky Punch. Right. So we walk by and my dude Ed was like, oh yeah, CNC Music Factory is here. It's a free concert. You want to go check it out? I'm like, are you kidding me? Freedom Williams is in here. Let's go right now. I open up the door drunk and high as heck. And I kid you not, it was a half hour into the concert. The entire standing room floor is empty. There is one person in front of the stage standing like right up against the stage looking up. And there are 3 people in the corner watching, in the back left corner, laughing at the band. I walked in and they are performing the hell out of these songs to no one. To 3, 4, literally 4 people in the crowd, 6 years removed from their absolute MTV prime. They're playing to 1 active listener, 3 passive ones. And I walked to the middle of the floor and then, I did a jerk move because I was a jerk and just started pointing and laughing at them. And everybody else like, dude, we got to go to the bar. I'm like, dude, this is like a cultural moment in time. CNC Music Factory is playing to 1.5 people. This is unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. I still don't believe it happened to this day, but it did, it did. It was great. It was wild. So there you go. You heard my ridiculous story. All right. I think we got one or 2 more I didn't get to. Thank you, Tobias, for triggering that memory. Okay. Here we go. Reg, stay with me here. Okay. Alan Dub. She did have it going on. Shout out to the lead singer there, Fountains of Wayne, who passed away in the last decade. But that was one of those one-hit wonders that captivated you for like a week and you couldn't stop singing it. And she had it going on, to a high degree. Believe that. All right, a couple more. Jay's in the house. Thank you for your support. David Tua versus Vlad Klitschko. So the very prime Tua. Now look, was the very prime Tua humbled against Lennox Lewis and handled due to the size difference? Yes. Could Vlad have been very safe and handled the prime Tua if Vlad would have been on top and they fought? Size-wise, skill difference-wise, you'd say yes. But no, dude, Tua's going to get inside and find Vlad's chin. Tua's going to knock him out. Prime Tua's going to, I'm telling you, Prime Tua's going to knock him out. That's where I'm going with that, okay? I don't trust Vlad. I never did. Even though I liked him, I didn't trust him. He shouldn't come back at 48. He should come on this show and talk to us about what went wrong with Hayden. Because who would have saw that coming, all right? All right, Android's here. Android number 183. Thank you for this, Canadian Loonies. I love you, brother. Thank you. Thoughts on the news this afternoon? So this is actually what Luke texted me about. Thoughts on the news this afternoon of Top Rank possibly staying with ESPN and ESPN wanting to stay in boxing. I think this is big, and if this is true, I think the report was from Brunch Boxing, and shout out to Matt Brown from Brunch Boxing. I think that's the guy's name. I follow him now on Twitter. They've been breaking a lot of stuff. They're doing constant live shows, Twitter Spaces. So I like to see they're making good moves in boxing. I like to see that. Same thing with my guy Showbiz, Showbiz the adult there. I love what he's bringing to the sport here. Looking to collab with him, by the way. This is potentially big, not just because Top Rank to me and to everyone is a legacy boxing promotion brand. I mean, it's classic. They're the old, they're like the all-time leaders, and they still got it, right? I know there were rumors, and Bob Arum put it out, that they were going to be talking to DAZN and they might go there. And there were other rumors that they're talking to other networks. But not only do I still feel like we need ESPN in boxing at a very high level, I think it would have been potentially, even though it seems in theory like Turkey's uniting the sport and the best thing for boxing is to have everyone together. I mean, if if you would have told me 10 years ago that there's a chance this year that every boxing promotion can be on one network and there'd be some dude from another country with unlimited money who's kind of, de facto running it as commissioner, would this be what you wanted? And I probably would have signed over my, kidney at that point and said, here, take my left ball too. Yes, this is what I want. Sign up for it. Reggie, is this what you want? Reggie's like, I want to bite your chin and then I want to climb to the ceiling and cause mayhem. There you go, buddy. Thank you. But if we have 5 major promoters in boxing, which we do, and 3 of them are already on DAZN, if Top Rank had joined, it's not just the idea that this great legacy promotion would be just another promotion on DAZN. And DAZN does certain good things DAZN's doing in boxing, but there's not so, presentation wise, is it always my best? Is it my favorite? No, it's not. I felt like if Top Rank had gone with DAZN, and maybe they still will, maybe, I don't know if this news is legit. We'll get there. That it was going to put PBC and everyone else in boxing into a position where you're either with Turkey and Saudi or you're against them, or you're on the outside looking in, or you are definitively, not on that level. Now, is there a world where Turkey could end up playing the role of like what HBO used to, where everybody's got their own promotional deal on any network, whether it's DAZN, whether it's ESPN or whatever, but maybe they come together for Riyadh season for the really big fights and the really big pay-per-views because the money's so large and you got to give Turkey credit. The platform he's building in Riyadh for these big fights, for that Ring Gala. They're going to have this big Ring Magazine award show in 3 days. It's supposed to be like the Oscars. There's certain things he's doing that are great for boxing that are, putting lipstick on the pig and elevating the historical classic nature of the sport. Yes. But if everybody's on the same channel and it's all, the food's it's like food on a cruise ship by the end of the week. It all tastes the same, right? There's going to be some problems with that. I was wondering if that was true, what this was going to mean for PBC, what this is going to mean for a lot of things. I think ultimately the only, outside of the sports washing side of it, the political side of Saudi being in boxing this aggressively, which gives us rightful pause, I think, to a certain degree. The biggest issue I have with it and the potential takeover that Turkey's planning is just the idea of not necessarily like violation of Muhammad Ali Act and all that stuff. No, more it was just the idea of like, is this going to completely suffocate the North American boxing scene. Luke's talked about this a lot on his channels on MK, and I think he's right. And I think John S. Nash on his podcast had probably the best conversation with Kurt Emhoff about this. What's the price to American boxing as we know it if you live in the States and you're a fan? If all the big fights are in Saudi, if all the fights that you can watch are on a singular app, which DAZN does great things around the country, around the world, but in US it's a very niche app for basically hardcore boxing fans only. What is that great to grow the sport? There's a lot of potential issues there that I don't love in that regard. So if Top Rank can end up on ESPN with that platform and that, connection to, in theory, crossover casual fans who are tuning in every airport, gym, lounge, ESPN's on everywhere. Is it a better thing to be more split and diversified, even though that kind of goes against what we think we all want as boxing fans, which is everything to be one and there to be one league and all of that. I think this is a good thing for Top Rank if this is the case. Ideally, that's where I want Turkey to be, as the most elite platform to some degree of the biggest fights. And if they have to be on DAZN, if he's going to be a one network guy, we still don't know exactly what it's going to look like. That's fine. I don't hate DAZN. I've called fights for DAZN. DAZN's cool, but do I want DAZN to be the absolute home of boxing? It's not really American centered for American fans. It's basically UK centered and Saudi centered. In this regard, I think this is really good news for Top Rank if this is the way they're going. And I think it leaves open the idea that you don't have to completely sell your entire business to Saudi, and you can still potentially survive and thrive and play in the game. So we'll see what happens. All right. Thank you so much. I want to make sure I didn't miss out on any other paid questions of note. All roids and lifting weights and no sparring to beat a young champ. I don't even remember what we were talking about there, Alan, but I appreciate that in heavy detail. Okay. Michael Carson, thoughts on Rush. So I'm not going to hit you with 30 minutes, but I probably normally would right here. I haven't gotten into Rush yet. They're the one prog band that I'm sort of holding out on and waiting. Do I know the big radio hits? Yes. Do I know the albums names of the all-time great ones that they put out that I probably should have already owned? Yes. I did make a move into prog early in my vinyl journey when I said to myself that I never would. I was ignorant. I didn't realize the full scope of what progressive rock was and could be. I basically threw it under the worst heading of what I thought it was. I got into Yes. I own basically everything they own. There's some great classics in there. Sometimes it's too much. I like some Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I'm kind of a quiet fan of them in that prog space. And there's many more progressive rock bands that I love, especially the ones that kind of flirt the line between psychedelic and progressive. Am I understanding that Rush is probably the most technically brilliant of all the prog bands? Yes. But I'm not ready yet. And I had Johnny Sig one time on this channel, and that guy loves, Neil Peart and Rush more than anything ever, and I respect that. When I'm ready, I'll be ready, and I'll do the dive. But it's sort of, I'm purposely waiting on that. Prog is something, especially the late 70s, what we all think of as progressive rock, is it's still to some degree an acquired taste. I mean, I love Genesis. I went deep on Genesis. You can't listen to that every week. You got to be in the role, in the mood. So I'm saving Rush in that regard, and not everybody's gonna like it. Okay, barf. Just seems dorky. I mean, Mike Hawk's long out here saying ridiculous, gross things, but we love him too. Okay. I'm always going to be honest with you. All right. One or two more and we're out of here. Brian Jordan, thank you for the Canadian Loonies. Imagine me and you. I think about you day and night. With that, that's Happy Together by the Turtles. Yes. Great stuff. Great hit back in the day. Appreciate that. Brian with a Y. I mean, is that really your name? Is it, are you really Brian if you spell it with a Y? I don't know. All right. And then we close here with Alan W. Better chin, Tua or Mark Hunt? Tua had a beard, dude. Tua had a freaking beard. Mark Hunt's doing that with 4-ounce gloves against Pride Heroes, though. I'm going to go Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt's got one of the best chins of all time. Shout out to Mark Hunt. Okay. Shout out, even though I watched it through my fingers, to the first Mark Hunt Bigfoot fight. Good Lord, that's the bloodiest 5-round, craziest heavyweight fight I've ever seen. And I wish more people appreciated it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Cheers to you. Cheers to Dave Sandine. I'm going to ramble in circles every Wednesday at 4 p.m. for 2 or 3 hours, whether you like it or not. Even if Perfect Speller is a huge fish fan. So am I, dude. Okay. My best friend Bogo is the biggest fish fan of all time. I went on tour in 2000. I got a lot of love for fish. I do. Here's the thing, though. I didn't really get fish until I got into Genesis. And I found out that Trey's favorite album of all time is what you call it. So, it makes a lot of sense. All right, I've talked for too long and in circles, and I got a life I got to get back to. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being you, okay? How do I get off this ride? There we go. Thank you for being you. We'll be back on MK on Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern on YouTube. Don't forget, if you care, tomorrow, Thursday, June 9th, 11 a.m. Eastern, live on the BCX. We're pulling Rafe Bugs out of not retirement, but he took some time off on the holidays, went on vacation. We're going to get his thoughts on Usyk Fury 2. He's got some hot takes to share. We're going to talk about Teo and all the weirdness. We're going to look ahead to 25 and the things that we're wishing for boxing. And we're going to be ridiculous because that's what we do inside the box. There's no consistent day or time for that, but once a week, Rafe and I are going to do this, whether you tune in or not, because we're friends and we love it. That's it. It's BC. It's you. Take care of your head, guys. Okay. I'm doubling down on my mental health. I got to get a little more serious. It's my priority. I hope it is for you too. Okay. Be for your family, who you're supposed to be. Okay. Prioritize that. Please. They deserve that. All right. If you're going through it, keep going. BC's got your back. I believe in you. Okay. Sometimes you just need one person to say that they believe in you. I've been there. I believe in you. Let's get out of it. All right. Let's get out of it together. Let's go. I'll see you back here Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern next week. Much love to all of you. Thanks to Long Island Luke, Michael Carson, Lazy Bed. I mean, these guys are the best. Alan W. I mean, these are my people. Okay. Can I pick them all out of a lineup? Probably not. Would I give some of them my organs if they ask nicely? It depends on the day. But that's all I got to say. Reggie, you want to take us out of here? Oh, man. From Reginald Jackson's heart to your lips and your ears. Thank you very much. Peace. We out of here. Okay. Thank you.